This is Michael Yon live in Thailand. Please tell me if this is coming through loud and clear. Uh-oh, get down. My cat just decided to be a cat. Right. Please tell me if this is coming loud and clear. We'll get started. And uh-oh, right on schedule. My cat has decided to be a cat. All right. Let's hope that it's on. If it is, I'm going to get started. I just finished. Please leave a comment if it's streaming out to you live. And I just finished with the John Batchelor show. And uh-oh. And oh, Lord. Hey, White Feet. Her name is White Feet because, as you can see, she has white feet. And bad timing, White Feet. All right. All right. Greetings from Italy. Oh, Italy. I really want to hear what's going on there. Hey, Grant. All good in Oz, mate. Thanks, Clyde. And hey, John. Lima Charlie, Eric says, let's get rolling. Hey, Matthew. And all right, let's get going. All right. Hey, Wayshawn. Yeah. Oh, Wayshawn saying, finally, Periscope app actually gives me a notification you've gone live. Good. Excellent. All right, let's get going. Jeff Edwards, you're in Israel? Okay, let's get going. I just finished doing the John Batchelor show and Gordon Chang, and it was a very excellent interview. Unfortunately, we had some tech problems, so we had to kind of delay it a couple times, and then we just finished. So really great interview. You should listen to it if you can. I didn't have put up a link just yet. Hello in Las Vegas. And my cat is, I don't know why she's decided to, come on, White Feet, be good. I adopted her mom. Her mom was a wildcat, and then she had kittens, of which White Feet is one of the kittens. So anyway, I watched part of President Trump's speech. I haven't watched the whole thing yet because there's been so much going on. And apparently he was giving the speech while I was doing my first live stream. I saw the part where he is cutting flights from Europe on Friday. And it sounded, I watched it 3 times. I was not completely clear. It sounded like he's also cutting the cargo as well. In which, we know that the virus can be persistent on objects. And so I don't know. I watched it 3 times, and I think that is what he said. It sounded like that's what he said. And so hello in Central Florida. And so let's get started with more interesting things. As you know, shutting off that international travel is vital. I've been saying that since January, but we've lost so much time now. Containment's out of the question. It's just too late. Now it's down to mitigation. And what we're doing now with shutting off flights from Europe, but not the United Kingdom, this makes 0 sense whatsoever because the United Kingdom it's unbelievable. It's in the same circulatory system. And the United Kingdom is doing a terrible job on their side. They're doing as badly as we are. They're doing as badly as the United States and Thailand. Thailand is doing a terrible job. United States is doing a terrible job. United Kingdom is doing a terrible job. Canada, you're doing terrible. The only countries that have done well are Taiwan. It looks like South Korea as well. Singapore, credit, and Hong Kong. Yes, I called Hong Kong a country. Hong Kong has done incredibly well for their position in so many things. But Hong Kong has done well not because of the Hong Kong government, but because of the Hong Kong people. The Hong Kong people are incredible. As you know, I just spent 6 months in the insurgency there in Hong Kong, and I have my respect for Hong Kong people skyrocketed after being 6 months I finally got kicked out on February 5th. Actually, I was going back into Hong Kong, and the government kicked me out, which was smart. They should have kicked me out much earlier because I'm there for one reason and one reason only, to help the Hong Kongers become free and to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party, right? Let's be clear about that in case there's any question. Now, doing the travel ban from Europe to the United States is way too late. It's too little too late. At this point, it's irrelevant. I'm not going to say it's irrelevant because it's going to certainly cut down the spread. So it's not irrelevant in that regard, but we're down at this point. We're down to mitigation. And I'm going to look at a lot of these comments later. Yeah, and as Janet says, Kidwell Cousins, it's ridiculous not to cut off UK. As much as I love UK, actually, we should, as I've been saying over and over and over since January, We need to cut all international flights to the United States, and everybody else needs to do the same. I'm only speaking of the United States because I'm American. If I were British, I would be saying we need to cut all flights into the UK, period. I would be saying cut the ferries, cut the trains, cut everything. Because what we're doing now is Band-Aids, and it's post facto. It's after injury Band-Aids. The United States airlines and trains should look like the day after 9/11. Everything should be on the ground. All flights within the United States should be on the ground. All trains should be stopped. All Greyhound buses should be stopped. I know it sounds crazy, but as you can see, all these things I've been saying since January are now coming to pass, right? United States, in about 2 weeks, we won't have to put up with these people saying that we're panicking anymore. We won't have to put up with these people saying it's just the flu anymore. Give the United States about 2 more weeks, maximum 1 month, and it's going to be crystal clear that the hospitals will be overrun surely by May and probably much sooner. And then when people get into car accidents, have a heart attack, have all kinds of things that are completely unrelated to this virus, struck by lightning, bitten by an alligator, whatever, you're going to go to the hospital and you're not going to be able to be seen because the doctors and nurses are sick or dead or the beds are full or we don't have medicines coming in from China because through the years, our illustrious United States government and others have outsourced all of our, not all, but a huge amount of our pharmaceutical production and API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient production is in China. So at this point, China, they've already clearly threatened us to cut off our pharmaceuticals. This is war. We are at war with China. They've been at war with us for many years. We should not stop until the Chinese Communist Party is utterly destroyed, crushed. I'm not talking about China and the Chinese people. They're quite fine people. I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party. We must break them. Look, this travel restriction from Europe is like, you see this? I have this thing around my house, right? This is for basic stuff. This is for like, I have a paper cut loading my copier. That's when I pull out these. I pull out Band-Aids, right? I pull out Band-Aids because, I cut my finger with paper and I got all, little antiseptic garbage. That's what that's for. But what we really need and have needed in the United States since January are things like tourniquets. You see what a tourniquet is? You know what a tourniquet is? For people that don't know what a tourniquet is, when you get shot in the leg or you get blown up and your legs get blown off, you need tourniquets, right? That's why I used to wear one on each arm in the war and one on each leg in Iraq and Afghanistan. 4 years, man. 2 years in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. I would, not always, but I would, depending on the missions, I would be wearing one tourniquet right here on my arm and others on my thighs, right? I had them situated so that if we get into a big firefight or I get one of my legs blown off or an arm blown off or whatever, hopefully I can tighten it with the other one. They're very hard to tighten, actually, because you got to tighten them down really hard. And you know what happens when people get tourniquets put on them really hard? They scream. They're like, loosen up that tourniquet. They just got shot, man. They just got their leg blown off, and they're literally screaming, that hurts, it's too tight, loosen it up, right? Very few people don't scream. That's what's happening now with shutting off flights. People are screaming. We should shut every school in the United States should be shut, period. Every university should be shut, period. Every bar, shut. Every restaurant, shut. People will scream. Tighten the tourniquet. We're there, man. We are there. We'll be like Italy within a couple weeks or so. Maybe a month. It's coming really soon. There's only very few people that I didn't see scream when a tourniquet got put on. One time, Eric Carilla got shot right in front of me 3 times, man. One of them broke his femur in half. Bullet. Close range. Al-Qaeda. Mosul. Iraq. When they were putting a tourniquet onto him, you know what he was doing? He was giving orders. He's like a 3 or 4 star general now. Eric Carilla, I love that guy. When leg was shot in the half, he continued to fight from the ground. Shot 3 times. He's still shooting back at Al-Qaeda right in front of me with his M4. Look on my dispatch. Gates of Fire. Look it up. Michael Yon. Gates of Fire. Eric Carilla. You can see photos of him shooting at Al-Qaeda with his leg chopped in half. Putting on tourniquets on him, he's still giving orders. They finally had to put morphine in him so he would shut up and stop giving orders. He's a rare individual. I love him. He's a true leader. A lot of people can't put up with him because he talks too directly. Same with Harry Tedell, who's commander, 5-2 Striker Brigade Combat Team in Afghanistan. Men like that and women like that, when they talk so directly, they alienate a lot of people. And there you go. But, you know, when you get into a serious fight, you have to take serious measures. You don't go for the Band-Aids anymore. You go for tourniquets. That's why I've got so many tourniquets around my house. This is what I was carrying. This is what I was carrying over in Hong Kong, right? I got a couple of these things. I always got them. Always got one in my hotel room, and I carry one, right? I got lights. So if it happens at night, you pull out your chem light, crack the chem lights, put it beside the wound, pull out your tourniquets, and start going to work, right? And start, you know, this is what we need, tourniquets. It doesn't do any good to put a tourniquet on Europe when you leave the other leg, United Kingdom, wide open. We're still going to bleed out. It doesn't matter anyway. It's too late. We're down to mitigation. We're down to, you got to take care of yourself. And we're down to desperate measures because we waited too long. It's too late. It's way too late. It's not too late for us to take personal protective measures, little things like take vitamin D. Take vitamin D, take vitamin C. You know, I wake up, take my vitamin D, take my vitamin C, drink my coffee, go for a walk today in the sunshine, make you feel better. Read some, you know, all I do is study this war at this point, 7 days a week. So here we go. Yeah, Marie Gannon says, control the bleed. #1 in emergency medicine now. Definitely. First thing you do, tourniquet. Tourniquet on the travel. What did we do when 9/11 was unfolding? Grounded all the flights, right? We're going to lose far more people from this than we ever lost from 9/11. Like 100 times more? I don't know. 200 times more? 300 times more? We're going to lose a lot more people from this than we lost from 9/11. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. Right. Let's see any questions here that we can answer. I went to a pharmacy yesterday here in Thailand, and all 3 people in the pharmacy, none were wearing masks. None were wearing, I was the only one wearing a mask and gloves and eye protection. I was the only one. And, you know, this shirt, what I'm wearing now, never leaves my home. It doesn't leave. When I come back with my clothes, I take them off outside, put them in the sun. We're probably going to get sick. We're probably going to get infected. Most of us probably will, but we can at least slow it down and smooth the curve. Look at Chris Martinson. He's doing a great job. I was just on the the John Bassler show with Gordon Chang, and Gordon, both he and John Bassler are doing a fantastic job talking about this virus and the issues globally, as are Steve Bannon on pandemic, as is Chris Martinson on peak prosperity, as is this British doctor. Sorry, my cat's up to something. This British doctor named John Campbell. He's doing a great job as well. You can find him on YouTube. Everybody has their own little way of teaching and their own, like Steve Bannon hits it on the big global politics picture, which I will hit some of that. Gordon Chang and John Bassler do the same. And then also Steve will get down into the medicine and finance and that sort of thing. And Chris Martinson does that too. The British doctor, the English doctor, John Campbell, he sticks to medicine. He's like, okay, here, you know, he's like 40 years in medicine. He says more than 40 years. Seems credible to me. He seems to actually know what he's talking about. He talks directly. He sticks to medicine. So everybody's got their own little different pluses and minuses. So we have to get our information from many sources. Let's see if there's any comments here that I see somebody talking about Tom Hanks. I don't know why people keep saying stuff about Tom Hanks, because I don't know what you're talking about, but I've seen his name pop up like 3 or 4 times in the last hour for some reason. I don't know why. So here's a problem that Jeff Edwards is saying. what country do you live in? He's talking to Josh Cronover. Most Americans expect the government to take care of them. Yeah, a lot of Americans do. Not Americans like me. I've got kind of a Scot-Irish background. We know better, and it's cultural. It goes back. It's not from me. It comes from generations of culture, right? We know better. We know we have to stock up. We know that when Katrina hits, New Orleans, or a hurricane hits Florida, or something happens in North or South Carolina, we know in Tennessee that we got to do it ourselves. And if the government helps, that's extra credit bonus. But in reality, it comes down to individuals, their families, their friends. Keep saying it over and over. I don't even go to church, but every time I see a disaster, these church groups come out and they get a lot of bang for the buck. I mean, I think if you give $10 to a church, it seems like $9 actually hits the target. You give, $1 million to the government and $9 hits the target. I mean, the government just screwed. Our United States government does not even have a strategic mask supply. We've had since 1918 to figure that out. Even in 1918, you can look online and see photos of people. I saw it first in an old book somewhere, but in 1918, people were improvising masks. I mean, out of all kinds of stuff. They realized how important masks were. And our CDC and others are saying, "Oh, you don't have to wear a mask." They're lying to us. They're not just inept. They're part of the problem. It's like the virus uses the CDC to help spread and kill more people. That's how bad they are. The CDC is completely, they are actually worse than worthless. What is the U.S. military going to do now as this spreads to the military, as it inevitably does, because our military will be just as bad as everybody else on stopping this? And how are we going to put our dozens of submarines out under the sea to protect the United States when submarines have infected people on them? Unless we do very smart things and we keep our submarines out to sea, or we only bring them into places that are definitely clean of this virus until this is finished, right? I mean, this is a big deal for our United States military. It's going to be a big deal for our hospital system, the U.S. and all across Europe. Here in Thailand, hospital systems are going to be overflooded soon. And then when you have a car accident or you have a bicycle accident, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal if you get a little infection in your hand because you weren't wearing gloves. It's going to be a big deal if you get a head wound from not wearing your helmet when you were riding a bicycle. It's going to be a big deal when you can't get into the hospital, no matter what your problem is, because the cup is simply full. You can't add anything else to a full cup without something else coming out. So already in Iran, sorry, I don't know what they're doing in Iran except freeing prisoners. But over in Italy, triage. They're down to triage. Like, this person doesn't get treatment and therefore probably dies. This person gets treatment. This person doesn't. Dead. It's down to that. It's down to bring out your dead. Monty Python level stuff is unfolding, and you're either prepared or you're not prepared. And people that keep saying, don't spread panic. I'm not panicking. I got all the stuff I need. Not to mention, I'm not afraid to die. And if you're not afraid to die, you're just not afraid. That's why I'm able to stand up to people like General McChrystal and General Menard in their battle spaces in Afghanistan. And people are like, how can you stand up to them right when you're with their soldiers? And I was like, because I'm not afraid to die. And I don't want to lose the Afghan war, which, it went the way it went after I was warning about it since 2006. All right. Gordon Bradbury, 70 to 80% fatality rate in ICUs in Iran. Of course, we're going to see here in the United States. Virginia, good. Something I like to see. Virginia Young saying, I'm prepared. Good. Let's see. Sent you a DM with a $200 bet that the U.S. will not be hit in 2 weeks. Will not be hit in 2 weeks. The U.S. is already hit. Send me $200. That the U.S. will not be hit in 2 weeks. You need to send me $200 with interest because we've been hit. We are hit. NBA just canceled the season. You notice the NBA just canceled the season, right? Maybe got our wires crossed here on something. All right. All righty, righty. I'm looking for questions here. Weishan, no word on accurate numbers from China, short of a massive leak at the official level, assuming they haven't gotten rid of the real numbers. We'll probably never know. Probably never will. I mean, the only things that we can find objectively will be the reduction of energy consumption and the things that they do that we can actually reasonably measure. Traffic, we can see a lot of things from space. We can see their light emissions at night. We can see their various gas emissions. Josh Crownover, see, you're already changing. You're trying to change the goalpost. It's called changing goalpost, right? So you said you sent me a DM that the United States you want to bet me $200 that the United States won't be hit within 2 weeks, and I'm like, we've already been hit, man. We're hit. The second airplane has already hit the tower, right? I mean, we're hit. You're like, I bet you we won't get hit. Now you're trying to change it. Hit hard. Okay, what do you mean? Nuclear weapons? I mean, yeah, we already are hit hard, man. You're way out. You're way off base. Send me that first $200, please, and then I'll make you a $1,000 bet that by May, U.S. hospitals will be overwhelmed. By May, I'll bet you $1,000, and I'm saying that with safety because and I don't like to bet because I'm not a betting man. I don't bet money. I bet with my life, but I don't bet money. And especially I live on donations, so I don't bet money from donations. But I'm not taking any risk. The fact that that this is an exponential spread, and that we're not taking the actions necessary to slow it, to even slow it. I mean, yeah, what is stopping flights from Europe on Friday? So right now the flights are probably filled up. Everybody's rushing home now with virus running through their veins. Yeah, unbelievable. We're way out of control. Thank you, Serdip, for sending PayPal. I appreciate it. Several people actually have donated today. And Kenneth Finney, thank you. I see that. Yeah, as you know, somebody threatened me yesterday about something, and that she was going to stop donations if I didn't carry the line. Basically, it doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with me. It's like General McChrystal's people, threatening my access as if I care. You know what happened? Let me tell you what happened. I went after Gerald McChrystal because he was losing the war. Just the same reason I went after Daniel Menard, Canadian general, at the same time, after he let the Tarnac River Bridge get blown up and big old mushroom cloud. It was quite loud. And all these other things. So eventually, Gerald Menard was fired due to my work and reduced in rank to colonel directly due to my work and kicked out of the Canadian Army. So that's what happened when we fought. At the time, they're like, oh, those two generals surely smashed you. No, they didn't. You know what? They stopped my embed in Afghanistan. You know what I did? I called up one of my old Green Beret friends. I said, you know what? I just got disembedded. I need you to send one of your airplanes, please. Actually, I said, I need to stay in your house in downtown Kandahar. It's one of my old Green Beret friends, right? I was like, hey, I need to stay in your... He's like, no problem. I'll send a car. You can get down to my house in downtown Kandahar. Hours before I got to the house, a truck bomb hit it. Blew up the house. Look at that. Look up April 2010, maybe. April 2010, Chemonics. It's a company. That's not my friend's company, but he was their neighbor. Chemonics got hit with a truck bomb. Killed some people. That truck bomb is the one I'm talking about. You can look up. It's like April 2010. Then you'll know which one I'm talking about. These aren't things that these aren't war stories. They're war stories, but they're true. So house got blown up. So I can't go down and stay in downtown Kandahar with the Taliban because they just blew up his house. So then I said, I need you to send one of your airplanes, man. Your house just got blown up. He's like, I know my house got blown up. I was like, well, I'm not leaving Afghanistan just because of Gerald McChrystal and General Menard. These monkeys are losing the war. Whoa, Joe McChrystal's staff got very angry when I published on Facebook that his staff are acting like crazy monkeys. They went crazy. Anyway, so I stayed in Afghanistan after the house got blown up because I went to Jalalabad, another place, and I stayed. And then I went over to cover the fighting in Thailand, which was quite vibrant. There was a lot. My hotel got hit with RPGs, and I got shot in the leg with a freaking ricochet. I was okay. It didn't even break the skin. Guy beside me, got not beside me, but close to me, got killed during that one. There was all kinds of stuff, you know. And then I continued to go to the war. Then I went back to Afghanistan because General Petraeus invited me. So I went back after General McChrystal got fired, right? So here's the point. I will not back down for President Trump or Bernie the communist or Biden, if he even knows what he's in. Is he running for Senate? Or Bloomberg, the CCP puppet? He's basically an ambassador for Xi Jinping. I will not back down to President Trump. President Trump is totally reactive. He is not proactive. He's trying to dress this up as proactivity. He's not, and he's way too late. And he's running around shaking people's hands like this is just no big deal. I was just watching Laura Ingraham. I like Laura Ingraham. I was just watching her on Fox News, and they're like making fun of this when people are saying that President Trump should be tested. Hello, it's common sense. I love you, Laura Ingraham, but you're messing up when it comes to this. Yeah, I've been on Laura Ingram's show. And so anyway, what can you do? I've been on Fox many times, and I want to say this about Fox. Every time Fox asked me to write something and I sent it, they never edited it. Even when I knew I was writing stuff they didn't like. So I give huge credit to Fox for that. Every time that Fox would say, hey, can you write something for us? I'd be like, yeah, I'll write something for you. And they would publish it, and they never edited it. They even though I was like, Fox won't like this, sent it anyway. And I'm like, well, Fox published it. They didn't edit a thing. So there you go. So credit where credit's due. Yeah, if you haven't stocked up yet, now's your last chance. Do it now. And let's see. You know, interesting thing about Iraq, and thank you, Sir Dip. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who supported my work. It is really important. This is the only way I can do these sorts of things. One thing I would like to say, when it came to the Iraq war, if you left for just 1 month and you came back, the war was remarkably different. Even if you just left, say, Mosul or Baghdad or Bakuba or somewhere in Anbar, say Fallujah, if you left there for 1 month and you came back, it was really different in that 1 month. So your knowledge on the situation was very volatile. In other words, it had an expiration date measured in like a week, right? So if you go away, certainly if you go away for a month, when you come back, things have changed dramatically. Afghanistan, I was there for 2 years as well, over a period between 2006 and 11, a total of 2 years. You could go away from Afghanistan and come back a year later, and it wasn't really that much different, actually. I mean, they changed the IEDs a little bit, low metal content or whatever. But the wars itself didn't really change. They started doing a little bit more insider attacks, you know, green on blue, that sort of thing. But the Afghan war the evolution is quite slow. The Iraq war was, you know, very fast evolution. This virus is like 48 hours, and everything that you knew before, you have to, I mean, seriously, 24 hours. If you miss 24 hours, you've missed really important information. You're seeing now, like the NBA just canceling, you know, their season. This is just the beginning. Everything's going to go, boom. But we should have closed all the schools already. We should just say, hey, this is the season when the kids learn about pandemic, right? This is the season when people learn how to homeschool, have computers at home. I'm sorry, that's my candle. I've read a lot of books by candles like this. That's a storm candle. I would recommend. I got loads of candles for these things. These are great, man. So I always carry those when I go to places where the energy might go out, or I always have one anyway. So let's see if there's any questions that we should be answering here. And I hugely appreciate all help, whether it's PayPal, Patreon, Venmo. There's so many ways to help, and I need it. You know, again, at least 2 people canceled in the last about 12 hours or so, and I expect a lot more are going to cancel because I just said that President Trump is totally getting an F+ on this at best, and he's just doing a terrible job on this. And I've been saying since January, if there's one thing that can take Trump out of this presidency, it is this virus. It can either do a direct attack, he gets infected and he just dies, or he's out of action, or indirect through the economy, or just, so many Americans die that people won't put up with this. And so, I emailed Jerome Petraeus, or he used to be director of CIA, friend of mine. I, sent him a message earlier. I was like, hey, why don't you run for president? He responded immediately like he always does. And it's like, no, thanks. And he's asking me how I'm doing. I'm like, I'm doing fine, except I need a new president. I need a president that's highly proactive and who's way over the top of his skis on this thing. Look what just happened to Italy. And it's just started with Italy. Their economy is now gone. Italy is crushed. I'm getting all these emails and messages and DMs and all these things. I love Italy. I've said so many times, I've been to Italy many times. I love the North in particular. I've said many times, people often ask me, you've been to 75 countries all over the world. What's your favorite place? That's really hard to say. But one of my favorite places is southern Germany, Österreich, and North Italy. That little area right there. Süddeutschland, Bayern, and Österreich, and North Italy. North Italian. I love that place. I love that area. And North Italy is getting smashed. And we've still been letting people come in from Milano. Milano is a very nice town. And we're still letting flights come in until Friday. Yeah, unbelievable. This should have all been stopped in January. It should have been stopped in January. We're way too late. Okay. And Jeff Edwards saying Utah Jazz player tested positive and hit hard. Well, we're going to get hit hard. We're going to get hit very hard. Very, very hard. Let's see here. Josh Crowner saying, Italy is not the U.S. We got ahead of it. I don't know what planet you live on, but it seems to be a different planet. Or as the cartoonist will say, what's his name? He has some great podcasts. We're watching two different movies. What's the guy's name? He has great podcast. Anyway, we're seeing the same thing. Maybe actually it's possible we're not seeing the same things because I study this 7 days a week, and I'm not in Trump's camp. I never have been. I've said since the beginning I've never liked him, but I didn't like the other people worse. I was never ever going to vote for Clinton or Bernie Sanders, that communist, or any of those people. And Trump has been doing a great job fighting back on China. I wish he would fight a lot harder, but he's doing better than anybody else ever did. And he stood up on our border issues, which is vital. It's a national security issue, our southern border. Brian Kofage has been down there raising money to build wall and these sorts of things. See, it comes down to people like us. It comes down to individuals, volunteer state, Tennessee. It comes down to follow me, right? It comes down to live free or die type people. New Hampshire. It comes down to us looking out for ourselves. Our government's not going to do it. Our government has already failed yet again, just like they did on 9/11 and so many times before. It just goes back over and over and over. Let's see. I won't be running for president. Yeah, Scott Adams. Scott Adams has some great. I'm sorry, Scott, if you're watching this. Actually, sometimes I think he gets hints from my work because I see him say stuff after I say it. But he might be getting it from somebody who watches both. Josh Crowler saying, I don't know what you're saying. We could be looking at different sets of information. You see, my information set might be different than yours. And based on what you're reading or what you're seeing, you may be coming to a sensible conclusion based on fault. We all have faulty input on this. Nobody has perfect knowledge, period. Not the president, not the CIA, not China. Nobody has perfect knowledge on this. But some of us are studying it 7 days a week. And some of us who recognized this back in January, for whatever reason, we have enough of a skill stack that we could actually sense this was real. However we got to this skill level, maybe they're a virologist, maybe they're studied epidemiology for many years, maybe this, maybe that. I don't know how I had the skills to recognize it, like I had the skills to recognize we were losing the Afghan war in 2006, and people fought me until 2009 until it became received wisdom and everybody knew it. Or the Iraq Civil War that I was saying in 2005, and 18 months later, everybody's like, well, yes, it's in a civil war. Well, we just lost 18 months. But the United States government, while covering up that it was a civil war, like this virus, that it's not a big deal. So if we took actions to stop the Iraq Civil War in 2005, we would have been admitting that Iraq was in a civil war in 2005. So basically, we're like, we can't admit that there's a fire in the kitchen because then we would be admitting that there's a fire in the house. And so, and if we call the fire department, then everybody will know there's a fire. So, there's no fire. I didn't call the fire department. Maybe the fire will go away. No, that's not how fires work, right? I was the fire alarm. They tried to pull my battery, and I just left and put a new battery in, right? And I kept louder and louder and louder. It's the same with this virus. And you know, I took on people about the Iraq Civil War and the Afghan issues, which actually has some components of civil war, but not to go into that. But you know, or the comfort women issue, or the Chinese information war. I've written 3 books on the Chinese information war. That's my 3rd one. It just came out about a week ago. It's not going to do well now because, you know, so many countries and economies are collapsing right now. So this is going to directly hit me as well. I mean, when I'm sitting here delivering all this bad news, I know bad news always hits my bottom line. Whenever I come on and say stuff like this, I've got many years of experience. As soon as I say stuff like this, people start cutting funding. And thank you for the few people who've come on board. That has been very helpful. A few people have come on today, about 5. So I really appreciate it. Hugely appreciate it. So it's a net of 2. 2 have left and about 5 have come on. So a net of 3 have come on. That's actually remarkable. I'm surprised that like 10% didn't leave by now. All right. Yeah, Scott Adams does a great job on some of his podcasts. Yeah, Seattle's not ahead of it. You know, Seattle's supposed to be where all the smart people are, right? They know everything. Keep the borders open. We're all so smart in Seattle. And there you go. So there you go. Yeah, they just totally disregard anybody that's not wearing the right hat. Tony is saying Italy is way ahead of the U.S. in terms of testing and ability to care for the people. No, they're not. Italy's getting smoked. And they might be ahead of us on testing people, but they've run out of oxygen in some places already. Their hospitals are swamped already. I mean, they might be because the United States is so far behind on testing. I mean, this is gonna be the stuff that history books are made of. We're in the middle of it right now. There's right now out of the things that come out of this are going to be a lot of heroes and a lot of zeros, like the people that tried to cover up Hitler's rise to power. Literally, more people are likely to die from this if it continues on this trajectory than who died in World War II. Yes, I said it. I have to live with it. And you know, as I talk like this, YouTube transcribes everything I'm saying, right? So it goes on a transcription thing on YouTube. So if somebody wants to find it 20 years from now, they'll be like, well, he said something really wrong. So I'm highly cognizant. This isn't buried in some video somewhere. This is on YouTube. It's everything that I'm clearly saying on this very professional microphone and very clear audio, and I'm saying it in super clear English, is being caught. YouTube is probably catching 98% of my words correctly. This is literally more people may die from this than World War II. And we won't even know. If you try to ascribe it just to this virus, that would be folly as well, because people that have car accidents or bicycle accidents or hepatitis or whatever other thing that goes on in normal day life, tornadoes down Tennessee, which luckily those happened mostly in advance of this. Hurricane season's coming. Hurricane season's coming. Let me say it again. McFly, hurricane season's coming. Normally when Florida or somebody gets hit with hurricanes, all the people rush down to help Florida, you're unbelievable. Come down, you see the Cajun Navy down in, when things happen in Texas or down in Louisiana or Florida, Cajun Navy got in their boats. They're gone, man. They got those big trucks. They're there, right? What are they going to do now? What are they going to do when people at home are sick or they can't work, so they can't even afford gas now because of this? I mean, so our ability to recover after hurricanes, earthquakes are not going to take a break after other disasters or some other epidemic or pandemic comes along. These things don't wait in line to hit us. They come at us like a pack of wolverines. Wow, a lot of questions. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Kathy Wagner Anderson saying, my grandson was denied access to his doctor's office today because he has a sore throat and fever. He has to go to a special location. Oh, Kim Saf Mashad is saying tornado season is about 2 weeks away here away in Oklahoma. Cajun Navy, man. I love those guys. Straight up Americans. You know, Thais are like that too. Thais, when there's a problem, Thais just, and Japanese are like that too. They're get together. And, you know, after the earthquake and tsunami and all that, I was in Afghanistan when that happened. I saw that nuclear plant grow up. I was near the Iranian border out in a place called Nimruz province, right? In Zaranj. And I got on the airplane, man, because the Navy was like, hey, get over here. You can get on the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier. So I fly over. Numerous flights, you know, over to Kandahar, down to Dubai, over to Thailand, got different gear because I had to drop off combat gear and pick up gear for that. Flew over to Tokyo, and the Navy's like, who are you? And I'm like, who am I? What do you mean? I just came all the way in from Afghanistan to get here. It took like, I don't know, a week or so. It was like unbelievable. And they're like, who are you? And I was like, uh-oh. They know who I am. And so I was like, something's wrong. And it looks like the Ronald Reagan actually did get irradiated. They probably didn't want me to know that. But then when I said that, I was like, something's wrong with the Navy. They're cutting me off. People are like, you're just angry at the Navy. I'm like, no, I'm in the middle of this. And I can see something's not right. I deal with the military all the time. And when they do something weird, it might not translate well through an audio or a television screen. But when I say something like, hey, I think something's wrong here, I can't really defend it, but I can smell it. You can't smell it through this, but I can smell it, right? But it turns out it was right. I think actually Ronald Reagan actually got irradiated, and some other bad things happened. They certainly didn't want me around for that. Tests are popping up in ER parking lots in South Carolina, Mike is saying. Yeah, this is SARS 2, Anthony, and comparing this though to SARS 1, as you well know, I mean, you're a medical doctor, is obviously, I mean, you know very well that the comparison only goes so far. It's like the comparison of a yardstick to a light year is basically what we're coming down to if this thing continues. Now, certain places have already proven that it can be highly mitigated. Hong Kong, hero. Singapore got way ahead of it. South Korea, it looks like they did. Taiwan and maybe Japan. I'm unclear on Japan. But certain places have done well. Hong Kong is like my new heroes. I mean, after all the fighting for 6 months with them, in the past, I thought Hong Kong people are kind of cold like New Yorkers. I'm from the South, so New Yorker culture can be cold. It can be cold to people in the South. And so, but after 9/11, and I saw how New Yorkers behaved, I was like, wow, I really respected New Yorkers ever since 9/11. I was like, wow, these people are amazing. I've always respected New Yorkers since 9/11. You undying respect. And likewise with Hong Kong now, when they're facing off against the Chinese Communist Party, really they can be crushed. And they're out there fighting in the streets. Unbelievable. And they know they're super smart people. They're like weirdly smart. And they know the peril and they're still standing up to them. And now this virus is like the commie virus, like a kamikaze, divine wind. The virus may, I don't know, but it may take out the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. It could well do that. And that's why I want to encourage Hong Kongers one more time, make sure to defend your own health and your family and stop fighting for now. There'll be time for fighting later, and I'm in with you. Stop fighting for now and defend your own health and resources and continue to organize and be ready because the moment of opportunity is ahead, right? And by the way, if the Chinese army had invaded, as we know, there's many bases there already in Hong Kong, but if they had invaded, I was not going to turn myself or leave. I was going to go live up in the jungle. I was ready to go stay in the jungle. That was my plan. Just so you know, I'm down with you. I'm still in with you, and I'm going to continue to help you in any way that I can. This American, and I know a lot of other Americans, are totally on board with Hong Kongers. You're inspirational. We got our own problems to deal with for a while. You can see what they are, and then we'll circle back to the fight. Alicia Wales, Gilchrist County in Florida, canceled all out-of-county field trips this week. We need to cancel all schools. My kids won't go back after spring break. I've been to Gilchrist County many times. How many people can say that? Gilchrist County is one of the darkest places. I think it might be the darkest county in Florida, right? I'm not sure about that. It's very dark because there's not a lot of people out there. So when I would want to go see the Leonid meteor showers or whatever like that, I would go out to like Gilchrist area, that sort of thing, Alachua at least. And you can get out there but definitely, Alicia. But I know folks that live in places like, Gilchrist are the ones who at least realize that they don't trust the government to always tell them the truth. Let's see here for any questions that I can actually help with or that others. I've actually said pretty much everything I need to say. I'm going to go back to studying when we go off, but I'm looking for questions that I can help with. Let me turn this aircon on. And if it's loud, I'll turn it back off. So tell me if it's loud. Otherwise, I'll turn it off. I don't want to bother you. Nikki Jones, when will this virus break? Well, it's a good question, and a long time probably a very long time from now, because it's probably endemic now if you listen to the virologist, and it's really just getting started. The second wave will probably be much bigger if we go by the experience that the experts are telling us. We don't know if it's going to be seasonal, actually. Like for instance, Singapore is still getting hit pretty hard, and they took a lot of precautions. And it's hot down in Singapore. If you've been to Singapore, you know what I mean. I've been there, I don't know, 20 times probably, maybe more. Singapore is quite warm, and they're still getting hit. And even though they're taking precautions, great. Okay, shouldn't have dropped the volume down. Great. Mike Morgan says can't hear the aircon at all. That's great because that's why I got this expensive microphone. It's called a Shure 7 S7DM or something like that. But it's supposed to help knock out things like this. Barbara, I've only listened to about 30 seconds. And as soon as I get off here, I'm going to go watch the entire speech by President Trump. Okay, thanks, Ed. Let's see. Technical name for the Wuhan virus is SARS-CoV-2. So SARS-2 is correct. Yeah, and I'm just calling it Wuhan virus, or Xi's disease is the larger disease that allowed this to get out of control. Xi's disease is the disease that puts Uyghurs into concentration camps. It's the disease that invaded Tibet. It's the disease that threatens to invade Taiwan and has been beating down Hong Kong students in front of me and many others since June of 2019. That's Xi's disease. And the Wuhan virus, the China plague, is something that popped out of there. Now China is trying to pretend that this did not come from China, and they're really great at information war. Remember, I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. 1, 2, and 3. This is the 3rd one. Just came out about a week ago in Japan. It's only in Japanese language. You can get it on ebook. If you speak Japanese, please buy it. It's on Japan, Amazon, JP. You can get it right now. And is that focused? And so, yeah, there you go. That was me when I was more handsome in Iraq, getting shot at all the time. I'm surprised I didn't get hit. As with combat, I'm taking every precaution that I can, right? I used to wear 2 layers of fire retardant gear. I used to wear my Nomex gloves wherever they're at. Still got them here. I used to wear even a racer hood at times fire retardant socks that racers wear, I would wear at times. Fire retardant boots and everything. 2 layers, right? Even in that super, super hot Iraqi desert, because I'd seen people get burned to death. But I continued to go into combat. But remember, even if you got the body armor on and the helmet on and you got everything on, at least 50% of this is still dumb luck, right? Even if you use every good tactic that you've ever learned and you're completely alert and you're sleeping well and everything else, you're still, the enemy's smart and mistakes happen. And Murphy's Law, Murphy never sleeps. Ed Murphy, you know Murphy? His name's Ed Murphy, right? Edward? What was his middle name? It was some strange middle name. You know what? He was born in like the Panama Canal Zone. You know Murphy's Law? I think he was born in the Panama Canal Zone. And guess what year? I think it was 1918, right? Of all years. Murphy was like, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, right? That's where that came from. And you know what? Where did he get that from? I think, if I remember right, his name's Ed Murphy, right? And he was born in the Panama Canal Zone. And like, I read a lot of weird books. So I think he served in World War II and the Korean War, I think. And I think he was like an aeronautical engineer or aerospace engineer. I think an aerospace engineer or something like that. But, you know, if you served in World War II and the Korean War, I think he did, and then you're an aerospace engineer, you're the kind of guy that thinks, if something can go wrong, this bad boy's going to blow up, you know? It's like, I mean, that's the way I think as well. But it doesn't stop him from helping launch rockets or go off to war, right? You're just trying to think things through to mitigate your chances of getting hit. Like my chances of getting this virus, I would say 50-50, even though I'm taking all kinds of precautions. I'm probably going to get hit 50-50. So that's why I'm taking vitamin D, vitamin C. So if I do get hit, at least, I'm eating well. I don't take drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I try to sleep well. Sleeping is very important. Get really good sleep, because sleeping well helps with your immune system, right? Reduce stress in your life. So I should talk more calm. Reduce stress in your life so that, maybe I should start talking very calmly so that everybody's not stressed out, right? But anyway, get a cat, right? Well, not my cat. My cat will stress you out. I got 3 cats. They'll stress you out. But maybe get a goldfish. But the point is that there are things that we can do. We can have good nutrition. We can sleep well. We can get some sunlight. We can wash our hands all the time, or I wear latex gloves. Wear a mask. CDC lied. Many others have lied about the mask thing. It's untrue. We should be wearing masks. Let's see. Deborah Danner, Alicia Wales Woodson. I am in southern Missouri. The volunteer state? No, Missouri is show me state, right? I love that one too. Missouri, show me state. Yeah, exactly. A lot of our states have great, like show me state, volunteer state, that sort of thing. Alicia, I am in southern Missouri. It's his show choir and a lot of other choirs. He isn't going, but I am 54 and have diabetes. And you might want to look into fasting. I don't know what kind of diabetes you have, but if it's type 2, you might want to, read books by Dr. Jason Fung. I think he's written 3, but I've read at least 3 of them. And here's this guy, Josh. Why are you dodging the definition of hit big? Man, hey, you're wasting breath and you're wasting my time. Let's see. Anthony, the challenge with zinc is that it must get into the cell to help. We're looking into such a version, but okay. Ed Celio. Murphy had a tie-in. The Edwards Air Force Base, the premier flight test center of the world. I'll dig it up and send it to you or post it. Thanks, Ed. Oh, post it, please. Yeah, actually, Jay hit it right on the top. I'm not dodging. I've said it like 400 times since January. If you're not listening, go back and look at some of my old posts. It's very clear. The United States, we could lose millions of people. I saw one estimate yesterday. It could be 460,000, something like that. 400 or 500,000 or whatever. It could be millions. We don't know. But I guarantee you one thing. This ain't the normal flu. And it's already cracking the economy to the point where President Trump's talking about cutting payroll taxes and all kinds of other things. Yeah. My job, 7 days a week at this point, is to study this day and night and to get on and tell you what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling. And people who looked at my work for years, like Iraq, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, and finally I left Iraq. I was like, okay, that's it. Same with Afghanistan. 2011, I left Afghanistan. I wrote it off. That's why this recent treaty with the Taliban, before it even happened, I was like, that won't last. And how long did it last? 3 days, right? And right in advance, I was like, and people were asking me, did you read it? And I'm like, no, I know the Taliban. I've been out with them quite a lot. Trust me, it won't last. The Taliban will not abide by any agreement. They're doing a talk, fight. And our government is trying to act like, oh, we're making, because our government's trying to make it look like, oh, they're trying to look directionally accurate, like we're getting somewhere, like we're cutting off travel from Europe, except for the UK. It's like, okay, all right. I touched my face, but we're like, okay, you got bullet holes all in you, right? And we're gonna put tampons in every bullet hole, because that's actually a lot. I got some tampons here. They're good for bullet holes, right? A lot of medics, special SEALs, Green Berets, Delta guys. I don't know if they still do, but they carry tampons a lot. But we're gonna plug up all these holes, except for the UK, which is like got arterial bleeding. You know what I mean? Yeah, but it's the UK. UK's okay. Yeah, no, they're not. All flights in the United States should be grounded. All schools should be closed. Amtrak should be stopped. All of that should be stopped. Interstate travel should be stopped. President Trump should say, go where you're going to go. You got 7 days. Go to your hometowns. Go to where you want to stay. We are locking down, period. It's that level of serious. And people are like, whoa, you're talking like China. Yep, I am. This is very, very serious. Very serious. And I'm completely unafraid. And I'm in a place that's even less prepared than America is. I'm in Thailand. Far less prepared than America is. And I'm still on this video. I'm not hiding out. I didn't fly off to some island. I could have gone off to some island where I don't have any internet and there's no people around. I can eat coconuts and stuff. You can make IVs out of coconuts. Okay. California, once the Golden State. Yeah. And Peter told me the other day on a phone call that it is the poop state now. Was there some app that's like a find poop or something like that? I looked at the app. It's actually a real app, because that left-wing government. I love California. I went to school there twice. I went to the language school there in the Army. It's a not Army language school. It's a military language school. I went for German, right, when I was a Green Beret. And then I went to school there later after the Army. I worked for Michael Jackson there. I did security for him. That was something else. Actually, I'm one of the few people that like Michael Jackson. I like Michael Jackson. I've never not liked him. I wonder if people were making that stuff up about him. I don't know. Anyway. Hello from Perth. Okay. Yeah, Jenna's right. All right, let me try to take important things that I might be able to answer. That's right. I went to DLI. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, they have more to test positive. They are testing. Let's see, Debbie. Nikki Jones, Sudbury, Ontario. First case, man went to conference with 25,000 people. Nobody ahead of this telling them to monitor, not self-quarantine. Unbelievable. Yeah. And look at Germany. You're supposed to be smart, Germany. And France, you're supposed to be so advanced, France. France and Germany are like, they're just as bad as America on this, and the UK and Canada. You suck, Canada. You're doing a terrible job. You're just as bad as America is on this. In Australia, you're just as bad as well. Look, they're sitting here. It's unbelievable. Germany and France are like, no gatherings of more than 1,000 people. You can't even make up this stuff. Why? Because airplanes will have more, less than 1,000. Why? Air France still fly. I checked on Expedia a couple nights ago. Air France still flying from Milano over to Washington, D.C. Yeah. why are they only cutting, banning gatherings of over 1,000? Excuse me, of over a hiccup, over 1,000 people. Is it because they don't want to ban the mosques and the churches and the other temples? Is it because they don't want to close all the schools because it's so obvious? Is it because they don't want people on the bullet trains and the other trains, whatever trains they have in Germany these days? Is it, I lived in Germany. Ich habe in Deutschland 4 Jahre gewohnt. Ich kann Deutsch sprechen, ja. I lived in Germany for 4 years. I speak German. Ich kenne Deutsch. Ich kenne Deutsch and ich kenne Deutschland, yeah. I mean, I know a little bit about Germany. They should be smarter than this. But no, they've been weakened. Political correctness has completely weakened them. Oh, that's why people keep saying Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks and his wife Rita have the virus in Australia. Both are quarantined. Well, I hope they're okay. I know some people don't like Tom Hanks because of his politics, but I don't have anything against the guy. Hey, of course, again, I'm not like tracking everything he says and does, but Madeline Kelly saying, "Hey, Mike, the NBA season is suspended here in the U.S." Yes. Dennis Stahl in Deutsch is saying, question, looks like China hasn't had more cases. Could it be that they have a vaccine? No, they don't have a vaccine. And secondly, nobody trusts China's numbers. But I keep seeing people quote their numbers. Even Johns Hopkins continues to report Chinese numbers. And then people report Chinese. A medical doctor sent me something the other day from Newsweek. He's been defending CDC, right? So he's like, here, look at this from Newsweek. So Newsweek quoted Johns Hopkins, and Johns Hopkins quoted the Chinese numbers. Johns Hopkins, by the way, was calling Taiwan part of China until maybe yesterday or whenever people like me went crazy. It's like, Taiwan is not part of China, period. Chinese are so good at information war. I'm talking People's Republic of China, not Chinese as a race. That's completely separate. Chinese Communist Party is so good at information war. They just call Taiwan a renegade country and do all the province, and they do all these other things. And people are like, yeah, it's a renegade province. No, it's not. Taiwan was never, ever, ever, not for one day, part of China. But if you ask most people, they don't get that. They're like, well, it's a renegade province. They want to break off from China. No, they were never part of China. Just like Peru was never part of the United States. New Zealand was never part of South America. As I've said before, Taiwan never declares independence because they've never been dependent. They've never been part of China. If Taiwan declared independence, that would be like, again, Kiwi land, New Zealand declaring independence from South America. Kiwi land was never part of South America, and South America is not a country anyway. South America is a continent, right? But China packs all these things on, like Tibet and Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia. Bring that up to the Mongolians. And all these other things, or even the name Inner Mongolia, all these different things. Hong Kong, Taiwan was never a part of China, and the China that we see on that giant map is BS. It is not. Hopefully, this commie virus, the divine virus, will wipe out Chinese Communist Party. But in the meantime, it's probably going to wipe out more people than World War II, probably, and hundreds of thousands of Americans are probably going to die. Yeah, Taiwan is not part of China. Period. But Johns Hopkins was calling it part of China. And then Johns Hopkins is citing Chinese numbers. Johns Hopkins is citing Chinese numbers. And so now China is showing, oh, we've got it under control. And everybody's like, look, China's got it under control. It's like, how do you know they got it under control? It's the Gell-Mann Effect going on again. You know what the Gell-Mann Effect is, right? The Gell-Mann Effect is you see something that you know about, like some topic that most of us know about, something at least, maybe our hometown. You see some story about our own hometown or our special, let's say you're a virologist or something. Let's say that you're a physicist and Gell-Mann was a physicist, wasn't he? And so they publish something that you know about and it's completely wrong. Like protons have a negative charge and and that sort of thing, which positive charge, whatever. So anyway, they say something, they publish something that about, and you're like, well, that's wrong. And you're like, this is nonsense. This whole article's nonsense. Actually, they got like 10 things wrong. Then you turn the page of the newspaper and you're reading about international events, and you're like, oh wow, look, Turkey is doing something to the Kurds. Those bad Kurds, or Kurds did this or whatever, blah blah blah. And you just completely believe it. It's like amnesia from like one article to the next. One article to the next, just total amnesia. It's like amnesia happens. All you got to do is turn one page and you're like, well, they're accurate again. That's the Gell-Mann, right? And so that happens with Johns Hopkins is doing this now. Johns Hopkins cites these Chinese numbers, and people go, yeah, I know they're not accurate, but that's why I don't cite those numbers anymore. But all these newspapers will go, well, they're probably not accurate, but here they are anyway. Because remember, that's not how our minds work. Our minds work like this. Here's the number. It's probably not accurate. Our minds edit out that probably not accurate part. Our mind will edit that out. Our mind will see 108,000 people or whatever. That's the part we will remember, right? So you got Johns Hopkins citing these numbers day in and day out, and then people will recite them, and they'll go, oh, but it's probably not accurate. And now China goes, and look, we got it under control. You think? It's still Chinese numbers. They lie. That's what Chinese Communist Party does. They lie. I've written 3 books on it. 2 of them are here on the floor. I think this was my first book on Chinese information war, right? This is something I've looked at for years. I've researched it across Asia, many different countries. Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, which I still call Burma. I'm like that. Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, China, Korea. Every time I go to China, I'm reminded how dirty that place is. If you've been to China, people who've been to China, you know what I'm saying. What is happening in Nigeria and... in your comment Barbara Pinard is asking, what's happening in Nigeria and Kenya and any virus? Well, my guess is that it's going to ravage across Africa as well, and we're not going to know very much because who's going to be talking about it? Who is going to be running off to help in Africa when their own family's getting hit in Alabama, right? Who's going to be running off to help? And Africa has had like 1 million years to raise up its standards, and it's not. It's in a cultural vortex. It's in a whirlpool. It goes in circles. It's like nobody's going to be able to help them except they help themselves. Except for anybody that stays there or stays put there. I would not be running off to Africa to help at this point. The efforts are far better spent on helping people right next to you, right? Your family, help your friends, help the people that you work with, help what's closest to you. That's where you'll get the most bang for the buck. Educate people that are very close to you. How is China defined that Taiwan was never part of it? How is China defined that Taiwan was never part of it? I have to think about what you're asking there. Well, let's put it like this. Taiwan was never part of China. Nigeria, Kenya, Congo, so many dozens of African countries. Who's going to be able to help? Because this disease apparently takes 2 to 3 weeks in ICU for people, even in places like Italy, United States, Hong Kong, right? It takes 2 to 3 weeks apparently in ICU for super advanced countries. What are they going to be able to do across the 1 billion people across Africa? Aaron Carlton. So my daughter, who is 10, just was informed, Woody, Tom Hanks has China plague, and now she is finally upset about the virus. Well, it's good. She's 10 years old. This is a good chance to start teaching her about life and death stuff. I completely disagree with the idea that we should wait until people are like 30 years old to teach them about life and death. Uh, I I think kids should learn this very young. They should learn about pandemics and these sorts. This is a perfect opportunity now that she is sensitized to Tom Hanks having this, and she'll probably remember it for the rest of her life. Now is a good time to introduce the children to the realities of this life. I think one of the problems that we have in the world is too many people are sheltered from it. When I was in India, and I was in a place called Varanasi, Benares. Huh. I was hunting cannibals, actually. Long story, but anyway, there were dead people there, and there were a lot, and because they would float down the rivers and this sort of float down the Ganges River there and that sort of thing. And there were quite a lot of Europeans and Americans. They would see dead human bodies. You'd see them every single day, and they would just be in shock. They would just be like, "Wow." They would just be shocked. I've never seen a dead person before. And they would be like 30 years old or 40. I'm like, wow, that is just amazing. And like one German lady, she was very nice one day. And then the next day she was with her. I think they were newlyweds, as I remember. I have to look at my notes. But she was like, the next day she is totally breaking down, and she was speaking in German to her, I believe, new husband. I have to look at my notes. But she was like, Schatzi, Schatzi, ich muss gehen, ich muss weg, ich kann hier nicht bleiben, you know. She's like, I gotta go. Ich kann in Indien nicht longer bleiben, you know. Ich kann hier nicht. She's like, I can't stay here anymore. I can't stay. And she was just crying. I'm like, it's okay. You're with us. You're safe. You're with us. Everything's gonna be good. And you know, you're fine. And so it's okay. I mean, your husband or whatever he is here. I'm here. Everything's cool. And that's, you know, I think a lot of people just don't get experience with this while they're young enough. I don't know what you mean by that, Kirk. Ring around. Dave White has there's a lot of comments that I've missed while I'm talking, so there's like a huge amount that I'm not like intentionally editing you out. I'm just there's so many, so I'm just kind of like diving into the pool and picking a question off whatever the one I first see. Um, has the Dave White has the virus outbreak in China helped their government settle down their internal issues that CCP could not solve in the past 6 months? I think it's going to hurt. That's my guess. That's my strong guess. But have to be careful with that. There's another. I've studied cults a lot. Chinese Communist Party's got kind of a cult going around it. Sometimes cults actually increase in power when they get a direct attack, direct threat on them. And so, like for instance, if people, you know, hey, we have to all castrate ourselves because here comes the asteroid and we're going to go away with it. Remember that cult in California? Some of the men castrated themselves. Wasn't that the asteroid people? And then afterwards, often instead of the cult just melting down when they'll say our calculations were wrong later. Often they actually redouble their recruiting efforts and that sort of thing. And actually, often they strengthen. So it's hard to say. Sometimes they crack, and sometimes when a cult is directly attacked head on, if you don't totally knock it down, they'll be like, "Oh, we were persecuted," you know, and then they redouble their efforts. Deuce 4, man. Deuce 4. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are awesome. You were a great combat unit. I spent 5 months with Deuce 4, man. You guys were unbelievable. You know, Deuce 4 was the most decorated military unit in the Iraq War, which is saying a lot. I mean, you guys took like 183 casualties, right, out of the battalion, which was 600 or 700 people, something like that. It was, as you remember, there was some serious straight up fighting. Erin says, she says hello from Illinois, Michael Yon, and be safe and to wash your hands. Tell your daughter I'm going to go wash my hands as soon as I get off, and tell her I hope everything's good. And you know what's funny? When you ask kids when they're like 10 years old, do you like ask her, do you like being 10 years old? A lot of kids will be like, no, I don't like being 10 years old. But I mean, like, I've asked a lot of kids that. But if you ask them when they're like 5, because, you know, when they're 10, 11, 12, they want to be a teenager, right? Actually, when they're getting to be about 12, it's getting to be too old to ask them that. But if you ask like a 10-year-old, do you like being 10? They'll be like, No, why not? They're like, because I want to be a teenager or whatever, you want to get older. But when you ask like a 5-year-old, do you like being 5? They'll be like, yes. Oh, they'll be like, yes. They throw their hands up in the air. I got to take my candle down before I knock it down. I'm getting excited. But when you ask like a, you ask like a 5-year-old if they love being 5, they'll just be, I love that. Song about the bubonic plague. Dana Dean, Shotzi, my nickname from my Oma. Yeah. Yeah. Bathing in the Ganges is not on my bucket list. Man, Westerners would go down to the Ganges and they would just drink water straight from the Ganges like Indians would do. That's unbelievable. There's over 30 raw sewage pipes going into the river from Varanasi alone, not to mention upriver. Dead bodies everywhere, humans. And, water buffaloes, cows, dogs, dead bodies everywhere. Like dead human floating down the river and there's a crow on its back picking. And they'll just go down with a cup of water and drink it right from the river. They're like, it has healing properties. And they'll look at you. They always get that. And the Westerners will get that look in their eye like, it has healing properties. Don't you understand? And the Indians are like, oh, it's breakfast. So, but the Westerners, we'll talk about this some other time when I write the book on write the series of books on cannibal hunting. But first, we have to survive this this incredible plague. Yeah, the comic cult was Heaven's Gate. Bill Cotton says, yeah. Did they redouble their efforts? I don't know how they turned out after that. Let's see. Melanie says, when President Trump addressed the nation tonight, he seemed to have a difficult time catching his breath. Should be taking a lot of precautions. I don't know. I watched only like 30 seconds. When I go offline, I'm going to watch the rest of his speech. Okay. It's hard to hear me right now. Uh-oh. Let's see. Sardip saying, doesn't think Heaven's Gate survived. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my security system here. A lot of times, I mean, a cult can be challenged and fail and fall apart. But especially if it's a cult, a personality cult, then if you strike that one personality, then sometimes they'll fall apart, or if that one personality loses his or her will. But when the cult, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they redouble, and it depends on many different things, I believe, which is something I will. Hey, Alan, thank you. I will stay on it. Some words about Taiwan was cut off again. Is my volume cutting off? Let me see here. Volume is down. Why is my volume down? How about now? How about now? How's the volume now here? Mike Morgan is saying volume loud and clear. I'm sort of saying, I mean, they were a death cult, and I think they all died. Oh, did they? I don't remember that. I'm not exhausted. If you're talking about me, with the end, you're talking about President Trump, probably. Ryan Kill, with the NBA canceling the rest of their season. How far does the threat of COVID-19 trickle down? Huge, huge. This is huge. This is the biggest thing of your life, unless you're like 105. I mean, this is the biggest thing of my life easily. There's nothing that even comes close. 9/11 is nothing compared to this. You'll see. Okay, Josh, thanks. Let's see. Patricia Friedman, Shannon. She's maybe answering Shannon Armentrout. I agree. Stop everything for 30 days. Close the market. Close business. Stay home. No travel. No gatherings. I'm ticked that the PGA wasn't canceled. Just bringing problems to our community. Just hibernate for 30 days. I agree. If we do that, we can just halt this thing in its tracks. It's just like massive discipline for 30 days. 30 probably. It depends on, but it would reduce the transmissibility massively. Of course, it's going to very much damage our economy, very much. But we're right now it's going to do that anyway, but we're meeting it on the virus's terms. Right? At least we would be meeting the virus somewhat on our terms if we just lock down. Instead, we've been letting people, they're still coming in from Europe right now, and President Trump's left the flights open until Friday. Yep. And he's left the UK flight still open. This is all band-aids, man. It's irrelevant. It looks like he's doing something directionally accurate or directionally, it's too late, man. He's like showing up to a fire with one fire truck and it's half of Australia's burning down. And Jay Suker is a medical doctor. I'm wondering what you're thinking about this. All right. I cranked it up. Good. So, and I see my gain looks to be clipping. I touched my face. I see a red light clipping sometimes on my volume over here. So if it's clipping, though, it's going to make the sound bad for people with good sound systems. I just made another adjustment. Let's see. Is it still good? Is it still good? Is it still good, or is it clipping at all? Hopefully it should be higher for you now. Should be really good now. I hope that's really good. All right. And let's see. Better. Thank you. Thank you for warning me about it. Thanks, Amy, Matt, and Anita. Okay, good. Volume is good. Okay. Good. Okay. Ed is saying no clipping. I saw the red light clipping. I am the king of analogies. Thank you. Let's see. You know who used to say I'm good at analogies would be like Indians and Nepalese people. But some people don't like analogies, but they do. And I think with analogies often. Yeah. China is totally messed. And think about China's situation with this. China has basically shut down their economy, right? And a lot of people have, and now, like, look at the Italian economy. It's just flatlined. And the United States, our economy is obviously going to be severely hit. First biggest economy in the world. Europe is going to get smashed, is getting smashed. And so everybody together. So even if China is able to increase their production again quickly, which I doubt, but even if they could, who's going to be buying their stuff? And also the supply chain has got this big gap in it. So even if all of their factories started again right now, there's a huge gap in the supply chain. We're talking China is in a bad situation. They are in a terrible situation. And the United States we need to make fundamental changes in how we produce our pharmaceuticals and all of our production. At this point, it's time to decouple from China. Listen to Gordon Chong. I'm sorry, I say Chong sometimes because I'm in Thailand, and Chong is how you pronounce it in Thai language. Chong means elephant, actually, in Thai language. But Gordon Chang, super smart. Follow his Twitter. Read everything that he writes. Let's see. Everything needs to be made in America. Okay. Wei Shan is saying there's clipping. There was clipping. But most people aren't going to notice. Either your setup handles clipping really well to not distort, or the streaming software, Facebook, YouTube, is doing it for you. Actually, let me make another adjustment here. How is it now? Okay, that should not have changed anything. I hear dripping water. LOL, drip, drip. Yeah, you know what that is, Mike? Maybe you won't hear it now. It's when people post comments. Maybe I've just knocked that off. I'm glad you said that. Either way, let's see, Sharon Valentine is saying, either way, they have totally screwed the testing in all different ways, or Trump doesn't want us tested. Yeah. I think Trump does not want us tested, but that's not going to do any good. I'm not going to read his mind. I can't read anybody's mind. It's funny when people try to read my mind. I'm like, I got a mind that you're going to have a very difficult time to read. And first of all, if you can't read your own mind, you certainly can't read somebody else's. And most of us can't read our own minds. Our minds are very complex little universes. Okay. Is the U.S. Zerion is saying, is the U.S. going to clear out of all the CCP loving corporation in the country after this? Well, we should. We should. We need to. Melanie's asking, what is clipping? Clipping in audio is when I can shout right now and you'll hear what, like I see a red light just went on. If I shout, you should hear some distortion and it'll be like, my voice will be distorted. And so if it's a lot of clipping, then it'll become, you won't like it. You won't like the audio at all if it's clipping. And you can't recover clipping, by the way. You can't fix clipping. It's like the photography equivalent is overexposed. So if you're a photographer and you know what overexposed means, too much light, you can't undo it if it's too much light. Often you can fix it if it's too little light. Generally, you can fix it quite a lot, actually, especially with modern cameras. But if it's too much light, you can't fix it. It's the same way with too much sound. If it's too much sound, you can't fix it. Good. Yeah, Murray and Henderson says, I'm in Canada and our counties have to start working together. If you mean counties or countries, both. Good. Let's see here. If there's thank you, Alan. If there's, I really appreciate it. If there are questions that I should answer that can help somebody be prepared for this, like little things, like take vitamin D. Also, things like this. Sorry, I was looking at my security camera. Vitamin C, vitamin D, in addition to they actually really can help, is it makes us feel like we're doing something productive, which can relax us a little bit. And being relaxed helps our immune systems. And sleep. Make sure you get good sleep. Make sure you get really good sleep. I have a decibel app that I downloaded. Decibel app. You know what decibel is? A sound unit of measurement, sound measurement, like horsepower, right? And I keep my decibel app on, and if it goes over, too much, then I see John Batchelor just tweeted about our interview. You should listen to John Batchelor's. I'll retweet it right now. So go to my Twitter and follow my Twitter, and you'll see that I just retweeted. And you should listen to John Batchelor's show anyway, man. That's a great show. I've been listening to it for years. So when Gordon Chang came over to Hong Kong, I was with Matt Schlapp. You know Matt Schlapp that runs CPAC that was shaking President Trump's hand about a week ago, and they're like saying all these bad things. And I was like, I was with Matt Schlapp and Gordon Chang. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. I took them to protest, this sort of thing. Great. And but then in Hong Kong, Gordon used to live in Hong Kong. He used to work there. He's like, would you like to come on the John Batchelor show? And I was like, yes, of course. I couldn't believe he asked me that. I was honored. Yeah. So I've been coming on twice a week ever since, I don't know, more than maybe 6 months. And so, I love John Batchelor show. And I was already listening to everything Gordon Chang was publishing anyway. So, what was the brand of my can opener? Aaron is saying it's a KitchenAid, right? KitchenAid. It's not here. It's back in my kitchen. I went through like it was 8 or 10 can openers, right? And I think I've still got 8 of them. And finally, there's such junk. They're all from China. I got this one that had really great reviews on Amazon. I think it's a KitchenAid, right? It's like $19.99, $20, right? $20. So I get this can opener and it's like smooth as silk, like Thai air. It's like this bad boy, this KitchenAid can opener for $20, which is much cheaper than these other 8 or 10 that I bought that don't work, and all the frustration and broken cans, and I'm trying to open them with a screwdriver and smash them with a coconut and everything else. And the best can openers I have are the KitchenAid for like $20 and my P38 Army can opener. My P38 is just the cheapest one. The P38 can opener, man. We've had those since World War II, at least. When were they first invented? I think World War II, maybe for C rations or something. I used to keep one on my dog tag, right? I got a P-38 right here somewhere. I bought one for Eric, my partner and friend over in Hong Kong, partner out on the streets in the fighting all the time. And I have to give it to him at some point. Anyway, he didn't get his P-38. But P-38, cheap, like 50 cents, man. You can get the P-38s on on Amazon too for like maybe a pack of like 10, and I think that's about $7. So that's like maybe 70 cents each. Yeah, I think it's KitchenAid, Melanie. Jennifer Hack. Are individual states and U.S. acting in concert with the virus threat, or does it differ depending on? Well, I'm not in the United States right now. Thank you, Barbara. But my strong guess on having been around the United States quite a lot, I grew up in Florida, went to school in Florida, went to school twice in California, lived in Massachusetts a couple times, North Carolina a couple times, Georgia. Oh Lord, Ohio. I've been all over America except for Alaska and one other state, right? And this is what I strongly, let's say I would bet $1,000,000 on it, is that every state's got a mind of its own, which is the way our country is made, which is great on most things, because we have to have independent suspension. Everybody's got their own realities. Alaska's got a different reality than Florida, than Hawaii, than Maine, than Kansas. We've all got different realities, different economies, different climates, different everything's. So, but it also can cause some problems at times. We all know that. Joe Sucre said, I love my P-38 from 1984, man. P-38 is great. Joe Sugar saying, I absolutely agree. He's a doctor, by the way, with vitamin C and vitamin D. These vitamins do help attenuate viral impact. That's from a medical doctor. So Jay Sucre there in the YouTube comments, he's a surgeon. I absolutely agree with vitamin C and D. These vitamins do help attenuate viral impact. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to go walking in the sun soon. What time is it? It's 11:24 here. I want to go walk out in the sun when it's nice and hot. Vitamin C and vitamin D. Obviously, I don't make any money from these. I don't even know who makes them. But order them, use them, get out in the sun, get out in the sunshine, and sunshine makes you feel better anyway. I don't know why. I just feel like when I would take breaks from combat in Iraq or Afghanistan, I'd go out walk in the Himalaya, in the Himalayan mountains. I would walk up in hundreds of miles, man. Oh, wow. Matt Schlapp quarantined himself. Good man. I'm glad that Matt did that. Creds to Matt. Martin Eric Collins, P-38. I love P-38, man. It works. I have P-38 and you carry it on your keychain. See, you're smart. Let's see, Jerry. I recently ordered a hand can opener from Amazon. It's basically a P-38 with a bottle opener attached. There are several, all made in Japan. Well, if it's made in Japan, it's quality. Let's see. Mike Morgan still has his P-38 from Vietnam, 1968. Mike, you were in Vietnam, right? Where were you at in Vietnam? Wait, you were a Marine, right? A lot of Marines probably got a P-38 floating around somewhere in their glove compartment or something. 4.75 for 5. I don't know what you're talking about, unless you mean sound. Yeah, because in Vietnam, Mike, y'all still had C rations. Actually, when I went to the Green Beret course at Fort Bragg, believe it or not, we still had C rations. We were eating the C rations that you guys didn't eat, and then we had LRPs, long range reconnaissance. I like LRPs. I really liked them, and they're really lightweight. You have to add water, and I like those. I thought those were much better for Green Beret type work than MREs or C rations because we always have to carry everything, man. Carry, and weight is a killer, right? Even a P-38, you're like, can I shave a little off of this P-38? You know what I mean? It's like, weight's a killer even when you're young and super strong and super hard. It's still the weight. Joan Emerin Varabertra called a well-known hospital in Marina del Rey today asking for guidance on flu symptoms my son developed, and they refused to give any guidance on whether or not to go in for testing, kept saying they adhere to CDC guidelines and can't offer guidance. That's the United States. That makes me want to call some hospitals in the United States and ask from here and record the calls. Would that be legal? I don't know. If I'm within the United States, it's probably illegal. I don't know if it's legal if I'm calling from overseas. Sharon Valentine, New York is doing their own testing now. CDC tried to preclude that, remember? We have to go state by state. You know, the United States, one of our principal strengths is it's not our federal government. It's individuals like us that share information, that do things. If we wait for the CDC, we will never be wearing masks. The people that we won't be taking vitamin D if we wait for CDC. We won't be taking vitamin C if we wait for CDC. We won't be even testing each other. We'll just all be falling over dead. You know, it's like, it comes down to us. And when it comes to, the federal government's always trying to take state power away from it. And I'm going somewhere with this. I don't want to get into a big political fight right now. We'll do that some other time. But when we make states compete against each other on taxes and that sort of thing, like whether South Carolina gets the factory or it goes to some other place, that makes our whole country stronger. Because Americans, when we don't have competition, we're just lazy and we suck, right? But when we got competition, we're the best competitors in the world. America competes like crazy. When we compete with Russians for space, we go, next thing you know, we're out on the moon, right? And then as soon as the Russians can't do it anymore, we're like, okay, we quit. It's unbelievable. And so, we anything that can make the United States compete will make the United States better, which makes the world better, right? And so that's just one reason that we need to always encourage state rights. States should compete against states. That'll make our whole country stronger. It's like make all 50 people in the gym compete. Thanks, Ewan, for that audio clipping video. Dave White, why would the CCP care about this issue? Western minds think in terms of the COVID type situation will hurt things like quarterly dividends. I can't see the CCP, this is Chinese Communist Party, this is coming from Dave, not me, thinking in terms of given their other issues with their economy in Hong Kong. Traditionally, they are, well, CCP has a great interest in this now because as this virus rips through Europe and the United States and beyond, well, we are their market. I mean, where are they selling all this stuff? I mean, the domestic market for Chinese products is not that big. The bigger market for Chinese products is like United States. It's Europe. It's other countries. It's not China. So as our economies are inevitably badly damaged by this Xi's disease or by the China plague, it's like a double whammy on China, a triple whammy. One is, boom, it kills a lot of Chinese. And secondly, direct attack on their economy. And then as we get hit and we buy less of their stuff, that's another attack on their economy. And so, and then also people like Taiwan and they're just more and more emboldened to fight back, as is Hong Kong, right? I love Hong Kongers, man. Taiwanese is like my favorite people in the world. You ever been to Taiwan? If you haven't been to Taiwan, you need to get on an airplane and go, but not now. Wait until this is over. Yeah, Joanne, I think that can opener was a KitchenAid, and it's like $20. It's a great one. Look at the way it had like 7,000 reviews on it. If my memory's right, it was actually 7,000, right? 7,000 something, maybe 7,706 or something. I don't know why I can remember numbers like that, but it was something like that. It was a lot of, yeah, Ed, that was for Eric. he doesn't need P-38s for sandwiches on the road. But and actually, Hong Kong has been doing a very good job on their handling of this virus. But it's not because of the Hong Kong government, which is terrible. It's because of the Hong Kong people who are incredible. They're like, I'll take a bunch of more Hong Kongers to America in a heartbeat. They will add something to the United States. Hello, Connie. Hello, Connie Elliott. I hope everything's good. Let's see what pleading the fifth says. Are you a lawyer? Let's see. I'm in Kirkland in Washington State, the epicenter in the USA. My neighbor testified. You are a lawyer because you said testified positive instead of tested positive last week, and is saying she is free to leave her house tomorrow. This is not being handled right at all. No, it's not. It's not. And I just watched, I love watching Laura Ingraham. I've been on her show. I greatly respect her. And she was downplaying that why should President Trump get tested when he's asymptomatic? Mike Morgan was at Pleiku. That's Vietnam. A lot of serious fighting there. My friend Matthew Dill said, my friend told me it was 40 degrees centigrade in Yasothorn the other day. Yasothorn is a part of Thailand and Isan, and I've gone out there. They have a huge rocket festival there, which is amazing. It's super dangerous, but it's a lot of fun. Ounces equal pounds. That's right. And pounds equal pain. Big discount on food. I don't know why anybody would be discounting food now. Let's see. Jerry Fowler, the Lurps chili corn tasted like chili flavored rocks. I liked it, man. Jerry, something wrong with you. Jerry was Green Beret too. I don't know. Some Green Berets don't have good taste buds, and they just don't know anything about. They don't have good taste in any stretch on any subject. I'll be careful because they might come knocking on my door. Let's see. I hope everything's going good in North Carolina. Healthcare workers screening patients at my hospital are not allowed to use N95 respirators until after a patient has tested positive. It's insanity. Let me read that again. Wait, what hospital are you at, Jay? Jay Mitchell says healthcare workers screening patients at my hospital are not allowed to use N95 respirators until after a patient has tested positive. It's insanity. I actually, when I get off this line and after I watch President Trump's whole speech and maybe do a little more research, I'm going to take a walk in the sun and I'm going to go see if I can buy a mask and oxygen, actually, just in case anybody I know gets really badly ill and we can't get into the hospital. At least we can have oxygen. Connie Elliott saying, Connie Elliott's really smart. You should listen to Connie. She's on my YouTube right now. Connie says, depends on whether or not you're in a one or two party state, Michael. Actually, I see what you're saying. Actually, I should get Connie on as a guest sometime. I listen to what Connie says. She's super smart, as is her father. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, as Tony says, Tony Perello, if lab tests aren't available, and Tony's a medical doctor, hospitals are kneecapped. Let's see, what is Connie saying now? Quest Diagnostics and LabCorp now can test, but their criteria are still the CDC's. One of the big problems is that there's a shortage of reagents. Yeah, I was just seeing that. Some reagents shortage. So here we go again. So they can't make we're short on chemicals to make them work. Toy Stewart is saying, John Emmer, does he have a doctor? He might call it minute. Cheryl Bond says, legality of taping phone calls in U.S. depends upon the state. Some have a one-party consent, but some, like Nevada, require both parties to consent to the taping. Yeah, but I have to be careful with that because I'd be international, and then because there's also federal laws, and also I don't know. This is lawyer stuff, and sorry, I was checking security. And also keep in mind if like I tape somebody in X state, right? And let's say it's 1 year from now, and I'm in X state, and somebody is like, "Hey, there he is. He played our voice on the on the internet," and then I get arrested in X state for a felony. I don't know. This is why you have to check with attorneys on these things, or take your chances. Sometimes I just take my chances. You know me, I'll run off to war. But you know me, I also take precautions. Like in my first book, Danger Close, I had a lawyer read the entire book cover to cover. And I said, "Is there anything in this book that's going to get me in trouble, like sued? Not just necessarily sued, but that I actually lose the lawsuit." There's a big difference. Oh, oh, thank you, Alan. Let's see. He says, "Dang right." I say it like a Southerner. Yon, this is why I've been following you for years. I don't actually know what you're saying about, but thank you. Um, let's see what is Connie saying again. C. Elliott. There's a fairly famous paper in economics that addresses the whole state's competing issue, a pure theory of local expenditure by Charles Thibault. Can you do a link to that? Every time you send me a link, I can't read them all because sometimes you send me a link, it's got like 800 pages. You know what I mean? But when I do read the links that you send, they're always good stuff. They're always important because you have a good filter. You don't send me BS. Let's see. Please hit my Patreon, Alan. I hugely appreciate it and hugely need it. Actually, let me see if anybody supported me. There's been about 5 people supported me today, and 2 dropped off, and 1 threatened me. Not physically threatened me, but she didn't like the things that I was saying. Oh, I see it, Alan. Thank you very much. I see it. I see it. So yeah, so about 6 today, minus uh minus 2. Um. Oh right. Good. I'm gonna send out thank yous later. Let me stay focused here. Hey Barbara, let's see. And see. Is the Princess Plague ship still full of passengers waiting to get off? Actually, there was news about that today, and I don't know. It was in the harbor, right? I don't know. I don't know. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna switch safety on and run silent on that. Should be easy to figure out. Jerry saying I had sea rations in the Marines in the '60s, and again the same ones in the '80s. While in the reserves also had LERPs and MREs. Sea rations tasted the best, but were harder to pack and carry. And yeah, sea rations were by far the best. I love sea rations. It's just, of course, half the time I was eating sea rations, I was starving to death because I was in Green Beret training. Man, I was ready to eat tree bark, man. Not just any kind of tree bark. I was ready to eat pine tree. You know what I mean? I was really hungry, and but sea rations were good anyway. And then after that, I like LERPs. But I like MREs too. But the problem with sea rations, like you said, they're too heavy and they're hard to pack because they're cans. Uh, Ryan Kill saying $1.68 for gas in Norman, Oklahoma today. Is that good or bad? I think gas should be a low price right now because Saudi Arabia and Russia are doing their thing. And that actually, that's another thing I want to look into when I get offline here is what's happening with the Saudis and the Russians on the fuel prices. They seem to be attacking our fracking, and that is a strategic attack on our economy if it is. Um, let's see. Connie Elliott is saying, when my husband visited Taiwan, he told me he didn't want to come home. Yeah, I love Taiwanese people. Taiwanese people are fantastic. They're like my favorite people in the world. And there's a lot. I love Thai people. I love Hong Kongers and Japanese. There's something about Taiwan. It's just I just feel so safe and comfortable. But I feel safe and comfortable in Singapore too, and I like Singaporeans too. I like most of the countries I go to actually, except India. India is a love and hate. Like one day I'm like I hate India, and the next day it's like I love India. India is the one country that hits my love hate button. I didn't like Iraq as much actually either, but I like Afghans. Afghans are. I'm not saying I don't like Iraqis. I didn't get along with Iraqis as much as I do with Afghans. Like I get along great with Afghans. Like if there's an Afghan here, I'll be like, "Oh, Afghan, let's talk." You know, I'll talk until he gets tired of talking to me. uh, uh, Aaron says she ordered it $12.99 and the price in the P38 too. My good P38s are great and they work, man. They're super reliable and they're easy to use. But I can't believe you got that can opener for $12.99. It was like $19.99 for me, man. Uh, it's a good can opener. It's so, especially after you've had these crappy can openers and then you get one that's so good. You're like, wow, it makes you just want to go. I was joking the other day. I was like, it makes me want to open all the cans in my cupboard just to, because I've been dealing with all these crappy can openers so long. And finally I got that KitchenAid, man. And I was like, wow, this is what a can, this is how I remember can openers. This is how I remember my grandmother's can opener. My grandmother didn't mess around. She had like a old skillet, you know, these old skillets that are like people been using it for 400 years or something, made out of cast iron. And it's like super, super good, better than any Teflon. Man, I wish I had one of those. I wish I had one of those good skillets. Man, those are good. But and my grandmother's like, don't use soap on it. You don't need soap on that skillet. Everything my grandmother, a lot of things that my grandmother told me, I thought were just completely wrong. And then, oh, because I was a little kid, and then I got older, and then as the years progressed, I'm like, everything she told me turned out to be right. Like everything, it's be careful for rattlesnakes. You cut their head off, and a rattlesnake can still bite you. You're like, hey, Granny, how can a rattlesnake bite me when its head's cut off? She's like, don't you sass me, boy. I'm telling you, a rattler can bite you with its head cut off. And they can. She was right. A rattlesnake really can and will bite you with its head cut off. Look on YouTube. Granny was right. She was always right. I should have recorded everything she said. Let's see. Zarian is saying, I'm living in Hong Kong and not sure if we had enough masks to last. Look, we got to MacGyver everything. Use Hong Kongers. You're super smart. Find ways, like vacuum filters or whatever, or gauze or something. It's obviously anything that just keeps the juice off of our face is a start, right? Like even this, I wear long sleeve when I go out because if somebody's spit hits my arm, it doesn't get to my arm, it hits my shirt, and then it dries off. And the scientists are telling us as soon as it dries, it's deactivated. They say deactivated for virus because there's that philosophical argument whether or not they're actually alive, which I'm not going to get into that. But Connie's saying her dad just ate on the her dad was in Vietnam and he's super smart, man. Her dad is actually yeah. Let's see. Actually, yeah, your dad Sir Dip is saying Tabasco sauce. I didn't like Tabasco sauce till I got in special forces, and all these guys were always using Tabasco sauce. I'm like, what's all that freaking crazy stuff? You're bringing out a whole bottle, man. It's so heavy. It's like, I'm telling you, as strong as I was and as fit and hardcore, a bottle of Tabasco sauce, I would have to sit and meditate on that for an hour before thinking about taking that with me on my back, right? And you're talking about somebody, me, who walked 40 miles carrying 50 pounds in hilly terrain in 15 hours and 3 minutes. 50 pounds, 40 miles, and 15 hours and 3 minutes in hilly terrain. And it was raining and snowing. It was bad weather. I could rucksack. We call it rucking, right? I was never a good runner, but I could ruck with the best of them, right? Before I would think about even carrying something like that extra in my rucksack, or even an ink pen, even one of these, I would be like, can I get by with half of this pen? You know what I mean? And these guys would bring Tabasco sauce to the field. I'm like, what in the world is wrong with you people? And these are Green Beret types. Some of them are ex-Rangers and stuff that are like ounces, make pounds. Pounds make pain. And but anyway, I started trying Tabasco in the Army, and finally I was like, I like this stuff. So now I got like 10 of them, man. They call it hoarding, but I bought it so far in advance. That way, if I run out of food, I got plenty of Tabasco to put in my rice and other things. I got a lot of beans. See what Ron says. He's up there, way up north, out in the high country, because food can go bad. So they are dumping their inventory. I suspect. Don't who's dumping food? You know me. I'll eat stuff way after the expiration date. I'm like, expiration date. If it's not stinking up the house, or if the can doesn't explode, if the can pops when if the can's got high pressure in it, you need to throw it away. Botulism. Wash everything. If you take your clothes off, wash your clothes, take a shower. Botulism don't play. Botulism will knock you down, man. You might as well be throwing anthrax around or something. Don't be messing around with botulism. So if your can pops when you open it and something squirts out, whoo, that bad boy goes out of the house, and everything around it gets sanitized. First, take your clothes off, go take a shower. And then sanitize everything. Don't play, and keep the kids away from it. Botulism don't play. Ron says UVC should work, or just set. Yeah, I mean, use this. My this uses my water. This makes UVC at 254. Right, actually 253.7, I think, nanometers. But you just take this, you just press this button right here. Take this thing off. And you put it in, you put it in your water. And I'm not going to do it. Well, I'll do it. I got coffee here. I'll hit it twice because that's for half liter. And watch. When I put it in there, it'll hit the sensors and it'll activate. Well, you can't see it because I can see it. You can't see it very well because the coffee's in there. So right now it's killing any virus or deactivating virus and killing bacteria in my coffee. I don't know if you can see the light. Oh, you can see it, right? But watch, I'll take it out and it'll go off. Goes off, right? Now I got to wash that thing. Got coffee on it. All right. So get one of those. And get a Catadine filter, wherever mine is. And also, I always have these Chem lights, man. I always have these Chem lights. I'm a big believer in candles, Chem lights, and batteries. I got extra batteries and all that. You can keep if you open a Chem light, I'm not going to open it now, but if you open a Chem light and you don't use it all the way, go throw it in the freezer, and it'll keep some of its charge. It's like say you open it up and it's good for 5 or 6 hours or whatever, and you didn't use it long enough, or you didn't use it all. Don't leave it out and let it die. Go throw it in the freezer. And you'll see what I mean, so you can save some of it. One of my friends, he was in Delta Force. He said one night they were out at they were doing some parachute training, drop zone, and he was popping Chem lights, right? Popping Chem lights they were going to mark the DZ, the drop zone, right? And he said, and he didn't, for whatever reason, he had what we call a brain fart, right? And he was pulling out the Chem lights. He didn't realize they were IR Chem lights, infrared, right? Because we have infrared Chem lights used quite a lot. And so he was pulling them out. And he's like, hey, it doesn't work. And he was throwing it down, threw it on the ground. He's like, what the heck, man? Didn't work. Threw it on the ground. And he's like, aircraft came over and kept right on going. He's like, what's going on? He's like, the aircraft's like, your panels are scrambled. And what panels? Or your Chem lights? It's like, he didn't realize it. Even Delta guys. Let's see. All right. Okay, let's see. We'll try to answer any questions. I've already said everything that's really important. We're just chit-chatting right now too. I love chit-chatting too. There's so many smart people that come on my pages, and I learn a lot. Let's see. Yeah, change the batteries in the Chem lights. Go get the keys to the drop zone. Change your compass batteries. Go down to S4, which is supply, and get you some compass batteries. Let's see. I have a big chili bush going off, Jennifer Haxine, making pesto from basil chili. I got some yesterday. And also using, because I'm actually still going to the store to check how everything's going. And I'll go dressed up and with my stuff. And then when I'm there, I was like, well, I'll get a few more things, but I don't really need. Did I get a new one? If you're talking about uh, the this, Alan, yeah, I did actually, because here's the old one. That's the old one that broke. So I sent an email to Catadine last week or so, and they sent this one free. So the yellow one was the one that stopped working, and I told them, I was like, "Hey, your Sterapin stopped," and they sent this green one for free, and they paid for the shipping too. These are great, man. I don't know if I've ever had a waterborne illness, and I go to the wildest places, man. I go to really wild. I go to India, and Nepal, man. I spent a year in Nepal. I spent 10 months in India. That's like 2,000 years in any other country. India is, anyway. Yeah, I like chit-chatting anyway. There's so many interesting people come on here from all over the world. We get people coming on from just everywhere. I wonder if there's... Have I stopped using cash? Actually, I used my cards more recently because I don't want to touch cash. And probably for the reasons you're thinking, I think it's a good idea to slow down on cash, even though my cash hasn't touched much hands lately. Then when they give change back, it will have, and I don't want to take that into my house. And so, Serdip saying Catadine has a deal whereby you buy that water sterilizer, and if you wear it out, they replace it for free. Well, they replaced mine for free. I didn't even. I was just like, they sent it to me, man. They paid for it. It came from Singapore, I think, and didn't pay a dime. So I just keep that one as a souvenir. But I use the filter. Where's my filter? Here's the case for it. But anyway, I use the Catadine pocket filter, which is here somewhere, and I've been showing how to use it. And so I don't see where it's at. It's around here somewhere. But the Catadine pocket filter is the one that I use the most. And then there's other times that I'll use the Sterapin. And that's like, let's say you're in a country like Thailand. Thailand has the water will be clean coming out of the tap, but I won't drink it without purification. But I'll take this out and hit it. But I know it's been filtered. I'm sorry, I keep looking at the screen instead of the camera. I know it's been filtered, but I'll take it and go ahead and put a Sterapin in it I don't need to at home because at home I got all kinds of clean water. But if I go to a hotel or something like that, that's when I'll use this. But I don't need my other filter usually. But in some places like India, I filter even the bottled water, or at least I'll hit it with a Sterapin at a minimum. Hit it with Sterapin. But if it's a bad situation, let's say you're in a Katrina type situation, a hurricane that wiped out New Orleans and all that sewage water's everywhere, so you got all these viruses in the water. In North America, water doesn't normally have virus. Sorry, I was checking security. Water doesn't normally have viruses in it. Water doesn't normally have viruses in the wild water in North America. However, if you have something that causes, a flood, earthquake, tornado, all of a sudden we got sewage out in the water, then you can have viruses in the water. And that's when you need to go, because remember, those pocket filters won't actually get the viruses out. So then you can still filter it. And after you filter it, not before, filter it first, then hit it with this. And the reason why you'll filter it first is because, well, different reason. One is get anything out of there you can get out with a filter. And also you don't want any cloudy water, because cloudy water attenuates the UV at 253.7 nanometers, right, for these things. UVC. Those are great. I don't think, to my knowledge, I've never had a waterborne disease. If I did, I didn't know Leia's asking, can I show my water purifier again? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I can. This is the one I use, Katadyn. But they haven't made the blue one since 2004 or 2005. Katadyn told me that last week. And now it's the same one. It looks just like this. It's called a Katadyn pocket filter, right? I love this bad boy. And I've been using it since about 2002. This one, you can see it says, you can't even read the writing on it anymore. I've worn it. I use this thing in India, Nepal. This thing has been up to Mount Everest twice. It's not been to the top of Mount Everest. It's been to the bottom. And it's been to Afghanistan, Nepal, Malaysia, Burma, Thailand, all over the United States. It's been everywhere, man. I've taken this thing to Italy, up to Milano, where the big plague is now. I've taken this thing dozens and dozens of countries, and I don't think I've ever had a waterborne illness. But actually, I sent a photo to Katadyn last week, and I asked him, because I found a number on this thing, and I asked him. I pulled. That's the plunger, right? I showed him this number. You can see it's like 2305 or something. I don't remember. I showed it to him last week. I don't know if you can read it. Anyway, it says 2305. And there's a number. Anyway, that means it was made in the 23rd week of 2301. It was made in the 23rd week of 2001. So I've had it since probably this thing was hot off the press approximately when I bought it. And I don't think I'll ever need a new one in my life. And that's the way I like to buy stuff, because, you know, cheap is expensive, expensive is cheap. Like I got those about 8 or 10 water filter can openers. Oh, save money on every one, and none of them work. So then I finally had to spend $20 on a KitchenAid, and now that one would probably last me forever. But on this, I hope I'll never have to replace it my whole life, right? It's expensive when you first get it, but if I never have to replace it and it always works, then is it expensive? One waterborne illness. And remember, if you need this after a hurricane or a tornado and you're sitting on a roof, you know, in New Orleans or something like that, or there's been a massive fire and everything's out and, you know, and you're on your own, that's the last time in the world you want your kids to get sick. The last time in the world you want to get sick is when, you know, your city just got wiped out, or there's a Wuhan virus going around and the water's out because the infrastructure has failed in the United States. Remember, I've been saying since January that our infrastructure could fail from this in the United States, and it very well could. And I don't mean like 10% chance. It's some I think much higher chance than that our infrastructure could fail, if not across the United States, at least in limited places. So be prepared to be able to, you know, you can get these like on Amazon. They're about $300 or $400, but this thing has lasted since about 2002 for me, and I almost killed a cannibal with it one time. I don't know if I was gonna kill him, but this is solid, man. But anyway, yeah, highly suggest get that and get a UV as well. And then you never have to worry about it again, and you don't have to worry about your kids getting sick from the water anyway. Alan McCullough saying, yes, American churches are the greatest spiritual force on this planet. Prove me wrong. Well, I can't prove you wrong, but I can tell you one thing. Every time I see a disaster, and I've said this like 20 times or more, churches flood out to help. You know, people make fun of them until they need them in a disaster, and they always come out. And I'll say it again. You donate $10 to the church, and probably 9 of it's actually going to hit the target. They got admin too, like everybody else. But you not donate, but you get taxed $1 million by the U.S. government, and probably $10 of it will hit the target, you know, like Haiti, right? But the churches, and also Sikhs help out a lot, and Buddhists here in Thailand, they come out of the woodwork and help when there's disasters, and the churches do here as well. Leigh is saying Amazon is out of them. Other places have them. They're probably out of them because I keep saying to get this. I should tell. I should have made a deal with Katadyn, huh? But I'm saying this I don't get any remuneration for this at all. Let's see. see what Connie says. We can't even see the numbers on your filter on the camera. Too much light on it. Sorry about that, Connie. Anyway, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just a stamp on when the filter was made, which was made in June of, because it's the 23rd week of 2001. What's the 23rd week of 2001? That would be in June, right? 23rd week is in June, right? I don't know if my math is right. Let's see. You're welcome, Sherry. Connie saying, with your talk about infrastructure, you are making a great case for moving out of cities. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've got all kinds of water stacked up here and all kinds of preparation for that. Yeah, actually, Tony's saying REI in Seattle carries it also, this water filter, and they are sold out. I was wondering if I got this from REI. What's that store down by the rivers, by the River End restaurant over in Nantahala Gorge? River's End restaurant. Because I think that might be where I got this from. I might have got this by that store by the River's End restaurant in Nantahala. Maybe. Where did I get this from? I don't know. I got it like before I went to Iraq and Afghanistan. Like a year in Nepal with that, and 10 months in India. Cannibal hunting, whole works, man. All right. Bye, Wei Sean. And, well, Rick Grover's asking, why, from Overland Park, Kansas, why hasn't Thailand exploded in cases since it's close to China and a vacation spot? Well, that's a very, very good question. And Gordon Chang and John Batchelor and I were all talking about it today on the John Batchelor show. And that's a big question. And John Batchelor was saying, well, maybe it's because of the heat. And John was asking me how hot it is here. And I'm saying it's like Florida, except for southern Thailand, it's like Cuba, really hot, right? And so you might think it's because it's hot. But then Gordon Chang accurately says, yeah, but look at Singapore. Singapore is even more south than Thailand, right? And in Singapore, still having cases come out. I think it's different reasons. I think one is, I think there's some cover up, for starters, and I think a lot of it's being reclassified to normal flu. But there are a lot of steps are being taken. For instance, in the last 48 hours or so, some of the major Thai banks are no longer even exchanging currency like like dollars or whatever to Thai baht, right? Or whatever money you come in with, like euros. They're not even exchanging it now. And a bunch of the foreign exchange people that work in the foreign exchange, the Forex places, they change euros to Thai baht or whatever. They've been given 14 days quarantine, paid quarantine. I'm not sure if all the banks are given paid quarantine. And yeah, and it could be different strains, Josh is saying, because there is at least L strain and S strain, they're saying. And the L strain may be worse. But let's see what the scientists are saying on that. They're obviously trying to work it out as fast as they can. And actually, Jennifer Hack, I still have a Trangia stove from scouting 1991. Oh, those old stoves. Like I got a stove. I got all kinds of butane. And if you make sure you got enough butane and propane or whatever you use, maybe both. Because that way, if and when the electricity goes out, sooner or later your electricity is going out anyway. Not necessarily from this, but from something. It just happens sometimes. It's great to have gas around that you can use. Sort of. Do you have to replace the filter inside after a while, or just wash it out? Oh, I'll tell you. I will show you. He's talking about the filter. Okay, I just screwed off the bottom part, right? You can hear I was just unscrewing that part, right? And now I will take the filter out. That's the filter. It's this ceramic filter, which I believe is embedded with silver iodide, right? But you can see it's got somewhat of an hourglass shape because I've used it so much. But it comes with calipers, which somewhere along the lines I've either lost or maybe it didn't come with calipers when I first got it. I don't remember. But if the calipers reach a certain point, then you need to change it. Like so you put the caliper. But But somehow I figured out how big that should be. And I don't remember how I figured it out, but I figured it out. And then I did the normal pi, you know, formula for the circular or for the, circle. And then I measured it. And then mine still has plenty. I don't need to change my filter yet. And at this rate, I may never have to change it for my whole life. I mean, I say I put 1,000 gallons through it, but it's probably a lot more than that, actually. These massive, incredible pecs that I've got, I made it. Some of that was from this. All right. Let's see. I was listening, Rick Grover said, I was listening to Joe Rogan's show today. He had infectious disease expert on, and he stated this virus isn't seasonal based on SARS and MERS, which was in 100-degree temps. Yeah, if this is not seasonal, then it's going to go straight on through the summer. And there's a lot of things about the seasonality. You have to listen to the infectious disease experts. There's a lot of parts to this equation. There's the heat is one part. There's another thing that people are outside and they're doing more social distancing, right? And then there's another part that vitamin D seems to have a serious effect, and doctors have known that for like over a century, right? Vitamin D, Delta. Vitamin Delta. Get it. And I have vitamin C. I take both. And I'm not advertising for them. I don't even know who they are. But I also get out in the sunlight. And so, yeah. Okay. Alan Thompson saying Tom Hanks and his wife are in Gold Coast Hospital, Australia with the China plague. Huh. Yeah, vitamin D for Delta Force. Take your vitamin D for Delta Force. Our Delta Force are really incredible folks. Let's see. I just froze up, Debbie said. Uh-oh. I hope it's okay now. You know, Alan Thompson saying Tom Hanks and his wife are in Gold Coast Hospital in Australia with this. And as I've been saying for a while, as soon as some famous people get it, then that's when people will start to take it seriously. And as soon as somebody super famous dies from it, which will be soon, that's when people will take it very, very seriously. It won't be too much longer, and famous people will be dying from this. And then people will go, oh, it's that serious. Yeah. But, when non-famous people die from it, it can still get swept out under. Thank you, Alan. I'll keep it coming. Mike Morgan, have they canceled the Olympics yet? Deb is saying, now you are wonky off and on, then stop. I don't know if it's coming off and on. Tell me, and I will stop. Okay. Keith Weissglass is saying over 90% of the vitamin C components sold in USA are manufactured in China. I believe less than 3% is American made. I've read something like that as well. So much of our reliance on China is unbelievable. It's like, yeah, actually, I have multivitamins too. I was just taking it one step at a time. Get people taking vitamin D and vitamin C. And but I take multivitamins now. I don't always take them if I'm eating really, really well, but which I do generally eat very, very well unless I'm fasting. All right, let me shut off here. Barbara's saying it's not going off for her. Let me go ahead and shut off here. I've got a lot more studying to do, and I want to see the president's full speech, not that 30 seconds where he cuts off Europe but doesn't cut off UK, which the British will love. They'll be like, yes, because UK is not Europe. Let's see. Yeah, actually, Ron is saying no vitamin C, make pine needle tea. tons of vitamin C. I've done that actually. I did that when I was in the army. Sometimes when we were out in field training exercises, I would make pine needle tea. It doesn't taste very good, but I wanted my vitamin C. I would do that in the army pretty often, actually. Let's see. Adam Rogers. Sorry, had to tune out for a bit. Your comment on my Oakland, California comment yet? I didn't see what you said about Oakland, Adam. Can you publish it again? And I'll stay on until you do. And then I'll answer it, and then I'll go ahead and shut off. Dana, vitamin C is scarce, also selling out, and prices are skyrocketing. By the way, on canceling the Olympics, there could be insurance reasons behind that. Like, for instance, let's say the World Health Organization, who finally called this a pandemic, despite it's obviously been a pandemic since January when I was been saying it. There might be political and economic reasons for not saying that. For instance, a friend of mine, she's a filmmaker. She said that Cannes Film Festival still hasn't closed this year yet because of insurance reasons. She sent an article. If they cancel it themselves, insurance won't pay for it. So they're maybe, I don't know, maybe they're waiting for the government to order them to close. I don't know. Let's see. Adam Rogers. Okay. We're supposed to go with my family to Oakland, California for a funeral. If I'm saying it's not a good idea, do you have any more advice on that to help me explain to other people in my family? I would have to know your family situation. My general thought would be to keep it. I don't know. I mean, that would depend on factors that only you know. Like, the fact that I'm even hesitating so much should tell you how much that I think it's a bad idea to go in a lot of extra public places right now. It depends on some things that only you can answer. But I can tell you one thing: I would not be getting on airplanes to fly overseas right now at all. It would have to be a hugely important reason for me to get on an airplane to go overseas right now. You know me, I'm a war correspondent. I'll get on to do that sort of stuff, but I'll be wearing a Tevex suit or that sort of thing and wearing a mask and everything and gloves and still taking a chance. Uh, but there you go. And Can Vit is saying, no word on my HIV DNA question. I don't know what your question was. Let's see. You're not panicking, Adam, to be concerned. You're very smart. And soon, a lot of people that have called people like us panickers or whatever, look, none of us are panicking. It will be, and it won't take much longer, just a couple of weeks. And they'll see, certainly not more than a month, and people across America will go, oh, I get it now. Yeah, you get it. Did you go shopping? And remember, if you don't have ammunition and you're in the United States, you need to have already stocked up. And if you've waited this long to get ammunition, you're wrong. Do 50 push-ups and then go get your ammunition, because this could really go badly when police can't come to work. What's going to happen? Iran apparently, I'm sorry, I'm looking at security. Iran has apparently released about 70,000 prisoners, unless that's changed. And Italy apparently is having riots in prisons now. What are we going to do in the United States when this sweeps through prisons and when guards don't show up and when we don't have deputies out on the streets, when we don't have police on the streets, when we don't have firefighters out on the streets? What are we gonna do? What are you going to do when it's time to call 911? We've seen what's happened in the LA riots. We've seen what's happened in Liberty City. We've seen what's happening over and over and over and over and over and over again in the United States when there's no law enforcement at the end of 911. And even when there is law enforcement, you are on your own. So keep that in mind. So that's why I would not I would not want to separate myself at this point from my strong point in the United States. I would want to consolidate family and be at the place where you want to ride this out. And if anything is taking you away from that hard point, it shouldn't be very far. I would not, for instance, get on an airplane and fly across America unless it's something extremely important. I love Barbara says, she quotes somebody, those who panicked early don't have to panic today. I love it. Yeah. Oh, she's saying that's a quote from somebody in the Black Swan. Let's see. Okay. You're not panicking, Adam. You're just smart. And sometimes smart sounds like panicking. Sometimes smart sounds like sky is falling, right? But it's not. You're being very smart. Let's see. Ken Veit is asking, what have you heard, if anything, that this virus was weaponized and contains HIV DNA? I don't know. I've seen that. I've seen it. I don't know. That's what we're going to have to ask scientists about and then sort through which scientist we believe. But I don't know. I mean, whether this was an act of God or an act of China or somebody else is unknown to me. It is kind of a coincidence that it happened in Wuhan, where their high security biological research facility is located. Coincidences do happen, but I don't know. And I would not put anything past the Chinese Communist Party. Diana Parker Shermer is saying, Dr. Hatfield on War Room Pandemic said that doctors may try HIV cocktail drugs to combat the virus against weakening the immune system. Makes sense. I've watched all those shows, and I've read Dr. Hatfield's book now 2 times, and I've studied it. Actually, I've read it completely through 2 times, and I've studied it as well. It's a book that's worth reading. 3 Seconds to Midnight, and it's very interesting. Let's see. Barbara Spalding says Vietnam has declared all 16 cases there have been cured. I'm going to guess that that's after all the top leadership and rich people in Vietnam have gone into hiding or out on islands in Vietnam or something, and that's just my guess. And they don't want their economy to collapse because this is going to be devastating for many economies. Aaron Carlton, Italy on complete lockdown until April 3rd at the least. Oh, yeah. And had they already done this before, which we should be doing now, then Italy would not be in this situation. And then, well, the political aspect to that is, look what you did. You damaged our economy by locking everybody down and nothing happened. Or you didn't lock us down and you smashed our economy and X thousands of people died. And that's what the United States is facing now, too. If nothing happens, well, something is happening right now. And it's going to be big very soon. And it's too late. It's too late cutting off flights to Europe. Whatever, man. It's like, all right, you shot them full of holes. We'll plug you up full a few holes here. Yeah. Well, even if this, as Connie says, Michael, even if this virus is not a weapon, it missed a good chance to be one. Yeah. Well, let's also think about this. If you are Al Qaeda or ISIS or somebody like that, or just a crazy person, it's very easy to weaponize this at this point. You just go get sick or get some of it, or get sick is one way to do it, because especially if you're the kamikaze type, and then you just go spread it everywhere. Right? You go to the political rallies that people are not canceling in many cases. You go to things like that and you spread it as wide and as far as you can among the most wealthy and powerful people you can. I mean, that's what is too simple. I mean, this is very simple stuff. So even if wasn't weaponized to begin with, it can be now. And it's hard for me to imagine, knowing the sorts of imaginations that ISIS and Al Qaeda types have, that they have not thought of this, because they think of everything like this. They are very imaginative people. Do I have Clorox wipes to disinfect my head? Is my head shining that much? Let's see. The University of Minnesota canceled classes till at least April 1st here in Minnesota. Let's see. All right. Barbara Boyerson, he's 82 with bad lungs. I'm 73 with 25% chance of staph infection. We are all in total quarantine. You should definitely be quarantined. Definitely. There's obviously a lot of things, questions and things that I missed up above because it looks like many hundreds came in and many were coming in faster than I can read. And so I'm sorry if I missed any. I'm just going to randomly shoot up. And Mike Morgan asks, is that me in the picture frame behind me? No, that was a soldier after a mission in Basra, Iraq. British soldier. You got Danger Close, Melanie says. It's a great book. I wrote it. And you can see in that book somewhere I say that in 1999 is when I published it, that, we haven't seen the end of communism yet. That's when a lot of people were like, we've seen the end of communism now. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. All right. Shooting down to the end, Ron Reese. Vaccines for SARS have killed lab animals when exposed to the virus. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let's see what Connie said here. Companies in the U.S. are telling their employees to not travel. And conferences are being canceled. Also, universities and public schools are going to distance learning. They should. U.S. in Gunner, must be U.S. Navy Gunner. I just ordered Sterapen Adventurer Opti UV personal water purifier from Amazon. Smart. Good move. That's this one. And also get the pocket filter as well. But everybody's saying these are sold out, probably because I keep telling everybody to buy them. But also even back order one of these. And then with these two, you should never have to worry about water again. Even if you're stuck on a roof after Katrina in New Orleans and all that crappy water is going by, you should be fine as long as it's not salty. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and shut off for now. Oh, Serdip, I tried to find the soldier I tried to find his chat because I saw him on the chat, but then when I searched through for all over the place trying to find his comment so that I could send him a message, and I didn't find his comment. So I don't know where it was. If you happen to see it, could you PM me? If you happen to see it, I don't know where it's at. Maybe it's hidden from me or something. But please, private message it to me. But if you leave it in the comments, I won't necessarily see it, even though I try to go through and read the comments. Yeah, I saw his name was Mark, but I didn't see. I was looking for his comment to send him a message. You said you were serious about the cast iron skillet offer. I didn't see what you said about it. I just ordered a Sterapen. Let's see. If you have anything you want to send me privately, send it to my email address. I'll say my email address a couple times. It's michael.yon@gmail.com. That's my private email address. It's my name. I'll write it down. Michael.yon@gmail.com. I'll write it down. Michael, and I'll put it in front of the camera. And so if you want to send any messages to me privately, do it that way. Gmail. I wrote too big. There's my Gmail address. Right there. It's my name, michael.yon@gmail.com. So screenshot that. I'll leave it up for about 5 more seconds. And so if there's anything you want to tell me privately, do it that way. I would like to thank everybody who supported me with Patreon or PayPal or Venmo or my uh, Japanese bank account, Mitsubishi Bank, Bank of America. Hugely need it. Hugely need it. Big time. And let's see, what is Carl saying? What have you heard, if anything, as far as weaponized? Let's see. Leia saying, I bought the UV thing too. I got a different brand of Katadyn pocket purifier, but stats seem similar. I'll get the other one when I get them more money. Just get one that's good for your situation too. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Alan. And U.S. Gunner offered to send you some of his cast iron. Oh, I'll take one. I'll take one in a heartbeat. I need a cast iron. Actually, I was looking for a better pressure cooker too. Pressure cookers are important for, especially for saving fuel, right? Well, they're good for many things, but one is they're good for saving fuel, right? And so you don't want to burn all through all your propane or butane or whatever, or saving money electricity. Or if you're up at high altitude. When I was in Nepal, I was out with Maoists a lot, right? And not supporting them at all. But they were making pressure cooker bombs right out of the pressure cookers. And so then the government made it illegal for them to have pressure cookers up in the mountains, which made them even 10 times more angry because they need the pressure cookers to cook up at high altitudes. Oh, they were just so angry. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut off for now. Thank you all for coming on, and I will almost certainly be back on sometime later tonight. I've got a lot of studying to do. I'm going to go watch the president's speech. Mike out. End broadcast.